everyone. How are you? I am still setting up here, so if you want to grab yourself a coffee or something, I've graduated from Gatorade and I am now drinking a peppermint mocha. I made it in my Nespresso. I love my Nespresso. I got it a few months ago on Macy's clearance. Macy's can have some really good clearance, especially in their last act. So this one was reboxed, so I was like, "Oh no, is it gonna be all right?" And it is wonderful. It is wonderful. So we're gonna start with so many, so many topics of conversation that I just have to hop on here and go because I keep waiting for the perfect moment, and then it doesn't happen, and then I'm just like, oh, I got more to say and everything. And so I'm walking around with 3 hours of conversation for you guys, and I feel like I've just got to go and like put my head to the side and empty it, if you know what I mean. And so here I go. Oh, today is Tuesday? Oh, who knew that today is Tuesday? Um, I woke up today to 765 subscribers. I was so happy. I'm growing. I mean, for this being my hobby and my kind of like little side thing to kind of like I've talked to you guys about ways to work out my insomnia and anxiety and the fact that no one else will talk true crime around here with me. They run and go into their rooms and shut the doors at me and look at me weird and I wait till they calm down and then try and talk at them again. And so this is so cathartic to me, and I'm meeting so many cool friends through my email, which is tabithajane0@gmail.com. It's the zero, not an O, which always makes it so confusing. Um, I'm getting to know a lot of you guys, and I love it because we are like-minded, and I felt so alone in my thoughts and questions with this case and so many other cases. And so now I'm so glad that I can kind of do my conversations kind of Nancy Grace, my spirit animal style way, and give you guys. Hold on, let me get into the microphone. You guys ready? Here goes. Ready? Hold, please. Hold, please. Let me get my microphone here. I hope I'm not being too loud in your guys' ears. Bombshell tonight. Is that good? Is that no? We got to do it Nanner style. Bombshell tonight with Tot Mom. No, that was too twangy. Bombshell tonight. Tot Mom is on the loose. Tot Mom is giving interviews, and that little hussy is getting paid for every darn one of them. You know it. You know it. I said it. Well, I mean, honestly, with the Tot Mom, it's so funny because my spirit animal, Nancy Grace, really coined that term, Tot Mom. And it's funny because when was the last time you really heard the word tot? Like, we don't call kids tots anymore, but it was just Tot Mom. It just worked for the whole scenario, and bizarre as it is. And as with all of the cases that I talk about and are talked about, there is that quirky, satirical aspect of it that if there were not the reality of a child being murdered, or a child being hurt, or a child being neglected and hurt that led to murder, would be, if that component was not there, then the situation and the way that these skanks that should have never bred behave is just the stuff that satire and jokes are made of. Do you guys remember back when Saturday Night Live was funny? I know that I brought that up before, but I just, somebody on my Facebook brought it up this week, and they said that they were watching Saturday Night Live, and it wasn't even funny anymore. And I'm like, yeah, it hasn't been funny since the 70s. And, I was a child in the 70s, but I just remember my parents leaving it on, and I would love it. And like I said, I love Steve Martin, and when he was doing the the dance, he was doing the King Tut dance, and just loved that. and the cone heads and Jane, you ignorant slut. Those things could never be acceptable in today's world. And I look at it and I'm like, are we going backwards in society? I mean, are we going to be Victorians again and go back to not showing our ankles? And I mean, where is this going to end? Because we are devolving in our acceptance. Well, the narrative likes to purport that we're becoming a more accepting society. Nothing could be further from the truth. We're becoming more distant, and we're becoming more separate in how we identify each other. No different than species of birds at this point. Because you've got this activist group, this group that represents that, this group that represents that. Well, that's not unity. That's not acceptance. It's ridiculous. And I am seeing it in a couple of the things that I've investigated this week. And we'll talk about that. But I don't see how we're becoming accepting, and literally it is like a taboo thing to laugh. Like, what the fuck? Why can't we laugh? If you laugh in public, people are going to look at you with a side eye like, oh, what have you done? Like, fuck off. I didn't fart. I just laughed, okay? Would you like me to laugh and fart at the same time? Because I could. I probably do. But anyway, did I give you guys, yeah, I think I did. I gave you a couple of fart stories. I give you the freaking, did I give you the airport fart stories too? I don't recall with my COVID brain. Oh yeah, I have this aunt, okay? I don't know. I think that there's something horrible with our colons in the family that was never really discussed and never really probably understood, because I think it was a problem like in the 60s and stuff where they didn't have all of these fancy x-rays and, endoscopies and colonoscopies. So I think it was just probably where they would tell you to put a hot pad on, or take some Tums or something, and lay on your left and just fart, something, like that, which is probably what most of us just need to do. But, in my quest to find out what the hell is wrong with my stomach, I have Crohn's disease, and sometimes it's just terrible. It's just the urgency and the running. I mean, honestly, like, I'm the fastest runner when I need to find a bathroom. I'm not kidding. But it seems that when I do visit family members, which, I took like a 20-year break from doing so. But when I do notice, especially with my one aunt, that she has an extraordinary problem with flatulence, and she loves it. It's her favorite sport. And so she's the one I took to Mexico when I was talking to you guys about Mexico. And so I apologize if I told you this story or not. But anyway, I was about 4 months pregnant. Oh, I got enough of a baby bump, and it was, my fourth pregnancy, so I was showing a little more. So, of course, we're in the morning, and she, her and I are sitting there, we're drinking our coffee before our flights are going, and she gets up and just kind of saunters right behind me at this little, cafe table in the airport, and just rips ass. She just, it was just, sorry if you guys are wearing microphones. It was a horrible fart, right? Well, she was sauntering, and she kept her pace so that then it made me alone, sitting there sipping my coffee next to all these frickin' businessmen getting ready to go on their flight. What do? They look over at the pregnant woman in the morning, sipping her coffee. Decaf, okay? Don't jump my ass as decaf. And I did allow myself one decaf latte a day until I couldn't. But anyway, so, they're all giving me the side eye and everything. And a couple that were close just got up and left. And they're like, looking back at me. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to fucking kill her. So then, I go to find her, dumbass, and double smelly ass. And she's still, she's like giggling. She's like, trying not to laugh, right? She's looking, in a magazine in the gift shop. And I'm just getting ready to just go and, just, wring her neck. And so what does she do? She rips ass again in the gift shop, and she keeps her she keeps her face, in the magazine because she's perfect at this. She's done it all of her life. She's about 12 years older than I, and so she did it, and it was horrible, 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 loud and horrible. And she's got her face in the magazine, and here I am, the one walking fast to go over to her. So then she, lets her eyes down past the magazine and looks at me with a side eye to like make other people think that it was me because she's looking at me like that. And then the cashier, not very friendly Russian woman, is looking up and looking back and trying to figure out who's done this and smelled up her little gift shop area. And so my aunt, the pro that she is at setting people up for this, she she did it again. And so the Russian cashier lady, who was not very friendly, starts screaming at me. She's like, "Get out! Get out! Get out and go to the bathroom! You stink very badly! You stink! You stink! You stink! Get out! Get out!" And I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm the pregnant one. I look like I was probably the one farting. And my aunt's just sitting there, looking and just shaking her head like, she, like, how gross am I? Just, nodding with the cashier. And I'm just like, you. So what do? I just go. So, I looked totally guilty. But yeah, that's the way it is. So anywho, I just think that there's just so many things that people could just laugh at. The basic farts. Farts are funny. Like, it's like, I had the one side of my family that never laughed about the farts, and I came from that other side of the family who farts were their favorite sport and hobby. I mean, everything. So it's like, you can't even, like, make a poop joke in a workplace. You can't make a fart joke in the workplace because it's going to offend a turd somewhere. You can't call anybody anything or infer anything because they're going to get offended. And like I say, the next thing is going to be like, I don't like that you call me an asshole because I am an actual asshole. And then what? Bitches are going to be like, I don't like that you call me a bitch because I'm a bitch. And like, it reminds me of fourth grade when I got called a bitch. Like, come on. To joke. They need to laugh. And there used to be comedy at the end of the day, where it wasn't PC, where people would go to the bar after work and go and have a beer and a conversation and a laugh. That led to people driving home drunk, so it didn't work out. But the thing that was missed there was it was the human communication, the connection at the end of the day, the conversations, the letting loose, the laughing, and then going home. So you've kind of put your work self away, you've loosened up, you're laughing. Then you go home. I mean, it doesn't mean that everything had to go away from happy hour. Happy hour, the alcohol was the problem. The connecting with other people wasn't. And there's got to be a way that it comes back together. And what I love to do is before I go to bed, I love to have something that I can laugh at. And that's where, Saturday Night Live used to be great, and you could record it with your VCR and then watch it later in the week, and watch it in parts and fall asleep. And, it just, we don't have that end of the week coming together, community, laughing, making light of the situations that are, plaguing our society. And that's the thing. It's like, if you didn't have the undertone of tragedy, then everything would be funny in the jokes that we say. And I don't know. Is it just that our society is so tragic now that we can't think of anything other than tragedy? And what are we becoming? A tragic, depressed society? This is not how it was supposed to be. Accepting, coming together, community, understanding, acceptance. We're doing the opposite. And I can't find anything to laugh at anymore. And it makes me mad. I did get to go and see Chelsea Handler in the midst of my illness. Um, Not when I was on COVID quarantine, but my husband had gotten me tickets and we were not going to go because I was, not feeling good. And I'm like, screw it, screw it, let's go. And, I just popped on an outfit and went, and then it worked out good because I was only up for just the drive down, the event, and then to come home. We didn't do dinner or anything, and I didn't spend any time getting ready. Which is why I still love the face masks, because you don't have to wear makeup when you have a face mask. I mean, if you can throw some mascara on and a face mask, you are golden. I kind of like that. But I did really laugh. And I know that even with her, there's political things that people don't agree with and stuff. But if you just listen to the way that she does it, and it's her life, and she's not hurting anybody with what she's saying, you just have to laugh. But that's the thing, is that anybody who gets put in the spotlight now, their whole history has to be exposed. And it used to just be limited to politicians, that their whole entire life would be exposed. Now it's anybody. And then anything that they do or don't do is judged upon by our society, and whether or not you should support them. And it's just like, you can't even just look at what somebody's saying, go with their jokes, and just frickin' laugh. So, I don't know. That's my 2 cents on what the hell's going on with the world today. And then I'm still eating Thanksgiving leftovers. I made split pea soup with the ham. We did a honey baked ham. And a honey baked ham, they have a soup mix to make split pea soup with, and it really pairs well with the ham. They have the recipe written that you put the ham bone in and stuff and soak it down. I'm sure that's really good to do it that way, but I'm not all about the grossness. I'm just like, no, I'll just, cut some pieces of ham off the side. Thank you very much. And then we ran out of marshmallow salad, so we didn't really have dessert to go with the leftovers. And the marshmallow salad is just one that I kind of adapted, and it's just 2 packs of pistachio, 2 bags of mini marshmallows, a can of pineapple, 2 pistachios, 2 things of Cool Whip, 2 things of Cool Whip, 2 things of marshmallows, 2 things of pistachio salad. So it's like your Waldorf salad or whatever, but without like all the extra nuts and stuff. And I just love that. So Cool Whip and pistachio salad and pineapple and marshmallow salad. And so then I made my second favorite dessert that, goes with the holidays. And all of these, they all came out in the 80s when Jell-O was making the good recipes. And it is this recipe, and it's called Cherries in the Snow, or Heaven on Earth cake dessert. Heaven on Earth dessert, or Cherries in the Snow. And basically, it is 2 angel food cakes torn apart, instant Jell-O instant pudding mix, can of cherry pie filling. So probably 2 pudding mixes, 2 cherry pie mixes, 2 cans of cherry pie filling. And is it 2 or 4 things of Cool Whip then? And then sour cream. But I put vanilla yogurt instead of the sour cream. And it's so good. And it just gets better and better, because you mix it all up, and the first day it's kind of like, oh, I don't know, there's not really a blend of the tasting. And then the next day it just gets better and better. You stir it up before, you dish it up, and it's just wonderful because all those tastes that went in. And I don't make it pretty because I'm not serving it to anybody, but if you look it up, you can see how it could be a really pretty presentation to like bring to a work potluck or whatnot. And that's where I learned it, was the potluck of the 80s. It used to be so fun. The potlucks of the 80s were so great when you didn't think about how gross people are and they don't wash their hands, and they have butt hands and pet hair and nasty shit in their kitchen. You would just go and you just eat and you just don't think. Kind of like how pools were for me in the 80s. I just go and swim, and now it's like, no, I'm not going in a community soup, pubes and snot, and butts and smeg. Nope, not doing it. So anyway, I made myself some split pea and ham soup. That's what I was trying to get to. And it's just so freaking good. And it's good for you, too. So good for you. So I made myself this white chocolate peppermint latte. And like I said, I'm sipping on that. And I've got my Gatorade for the backup. Now, if Boo comes up here, I have my armadillo, the armadillo that gave birth. I'm going to put that on the keyboard, but I also have a bed set up here because he keeps getting up and jumping all over my laptop and undoing everything. So let's hope that he doesn't. It is his feeding time, so I might have a little break from the Boo for a little bit. The other night it did not work out that well, and I'll put up some pictures on my community page of what I was dealing with him when I was trying to get ready to record. So, the news. The news has had so much going on right now that I've got 3, well, maybe 2, bombshells tonight to get to. Okay? So, basically, I would like to talk about, trying to decide what order I should do. I think I'll do the Idaho 4, and then we'll talk about Shanquella, and then we'll do all new things on Watts Island, and then we'll read chapter 11 of Patricia Evans' book, Controlling People, and really how I've been kind of focusing on what that last reading defined and how it defined SW. So I think we'll do it in that order. I think that's going to fall into place best. I will probably do an intermission bathroom break, have my son guard my laptop so that Boo doesn't jump up. And we'll go in that order. And I've got to tell you that, well, I'll mention it now, that there could be some things that I talk about that are upsetting with sensitive content, as we are talking about the loss of life. And I will give you a warning. I'll try to give you a warning. So just maybe go grab a cup of coffee or run to the bathroom or go somewhere and fart or something, when I'm going to talk about the things that are more upsetting, and then just circle back because we got to chat. Because I love all you guys. I love y'all. So, okay. The Idaho 4. Like I've told you. I am from that land, so this is breaking my heart. And then, it's really weird. It's surreal to see it because that is just a college town. There's nothing that you would ever think in this beautiful little college town that anything bad would ever happen. And I'm sure that when people made the selection for their children, young adults, to go to college there, they had such relief because what could be safer than this little college nestled in central Idaho with no crime? I mean, it just screams safety and serenity. And you can see that in the pictures that you're seeing in the background, other than the ones that don't have the freaking crime scene tape up and whatnot. So, I'm really getting concerned. I'm afraid that this is going to become an unsolved case. The longer it goes unsolved, the more likely that is. And I really hope that's not going to be the case, but it's not looking good. Did you guys see the press release when last week when they got up and they said that Idaho Governor Brad Little pledged up to $1 million for the investigation? I'm sure he'll give more, but for right now he allotted those emergency funds to be there. And they stated last week that they conducted 150 interviews. They'd taken 103 pieces of evidence from the crime scene. That's actual tangible pieces that they bagged up and took. 103 pieces that they took. They've taken over 4,000 photographs, and they've made a 3D scan of the house. And they asked for questions, and I believe they gave preference to the local reporters. And this one gets up and she's like, yeah, can you guys say anything true about that this was a murder-suicide? And you could have heard a pin drop. And I was like, oh no, you did not. You didn't. Oh. And here you are. I'm going to slap the forehead. That's a slap. Oh, ow, I did it a little too hard. Maybe I have horns in my head. I don't know. Why did it hurt so bad? I'll slap my forehead. It was one of those moments, and you're just like, oh my God, you did not just say that, you frickin' moron. And so they're like, no, there's nothing to indicate that it's a murder-suicide. They just kind of, look down and to the side and stuff. And I mean, other than the obvious that, the massacre happened on November 13th. They were given the news conference last week, so basically 2 weeks after, highlighting that there was just another $1 million allotted, 150 interviews, 103 pieces of evidence taken, 4,000 photographs, a 3D scan of the house, and you want to get up and stand up and ask if it was a murder-suicide? The fuck? Come on now. Don't you think that it would look a little bit different to the one? Don't you think that the rest of the victims would look a little different than the one, and they would have just had a little press conference the next day with the dean of the college and said, we had a horrible incident. It is believed to be a murder-suicide. We're doing an investigation. We've invited a couple of outside agencies to come out, and we do believe that the community is not under any threat. Now, they did say the community is not under a threat, but they did retract that. So I can give you that. But if it was a murder-suicide, it would have been sealed up, signed, sealed, delivered in 48 hours. And we would not be talking about it. $1 million, 150 interviews, 103 pieces of evidence, 4,000 photographs, and a 3D scan of the freaking house. Now would we? Good God. Okay? So I was just thinking, I was like, what would have possessed this person to ask that question? Because okay, just sometimes I've tried to make sense out of nonsense. It's one of my freaking endearing qualities, right? So I Googled, just a straight up Google, college murder-suicide. And what comes up is another college murder-suicide. I believe was it in Oregon? So basically, if other people didn't know the lay of the land, or they're not familiar with the West Coast as a whole, and say that they've heard something in passing and whatnot of something happening on a college campus with 4 people or something, and then they go to Google it, or ask somebody about it, and then they remember that they saw something. This is where it's getting confused, because there is other high-profile murder-suicides on college campuses. So I'm assuming that something got lost in translation, and then that started the rumor mill, and people who then come into the conversation with that, they don't know what's going on, and then they hop on a Reddit or something else, and then it goes from there, and then it's given its own life, and it becomes a rumor, and then it comes to the reporter angle where they need to rule it out. But I think that she should have done it due diligence, like it took me 2 seconds to do, to be like, how would you come up with that out of this? Because the coroner, and I do believe it's stated that the coroner is a former attorney, she stated that the scene is the most bloody and gruesome crime scene that she's seen in 16 years. And I think that they did, I think she is out of Spokane, right? My hometown. I think I read that. So I think they brought the victims into, the biggest, the nearest bigger city, which is Spokane, which, those of us who are from Spokane would laugh because thinking of that as a big city, when it used to be just so small, and now it's actually, bigger. But that being said, she's not saying that it's the most gruesome scene that she's ever seen living in, speaking from Idaho, as Idaho doesn't have very many crimes. I think this is their first homicide in 5 years, and there's never been like a multiple victim homicide that I can see anywhere. And coroner said, all four were stabbed in their beds. Okay, I have a problem with that. All four were stabbed in their beds. Okay, Ethan did not live there. Ethan was a fraternity boy. Okay, he did not live in that home. The home was leased out to 6 girls. Xana held the lease. Okay, Xana and Ethan were together in Xana's room, so Xana's roommate was not there. Okay, so that's not Ethan's bed. Now, is that saying all four were stabbed in their bed? Is that saying that Xana and Ethan were in her bed and they were both there? I don't know, because Xana's dad came out and said that Xana was a tough girl, that she was really cool, and that, she was just one of those cool chicks, and she could kick ass, and she did. And her father was given the information that she put up such a fight that there were actual bruises from the knife as well as the stab wounds, like that she was putting up her hands and fighting so much that there were tears, bruises, and stab wounds and that was not seen in the others. Gosh darn it, I should have given a trigger warning on this. I'm sorry, I'm discussing what may be unsettling to some. I do apologize. But he said, and it is stated that she put up a fight, and it is saying another one of them put up a fight. So that's interesting to me. But like I said, where the coroner said all four were stabbed in their beds, that is not true. And what we're not looking at, I don't see, is the fact that, okay, 6 people were on the lease. Okay. 5 of those 6 people that were on the lease, no. Okay, because if one was not home, then that's 5. Yeah, that works. Okay. So 6 people. 6 people are on the lease. 5 of the people on the lease were home that night. 3 of the people on the lease lost their life. The 4th one is a fraternity brother, and he lives elsewhere. So then that actually leaves 3 people on the lease that are not named, which, no one would want to be named right now that is there, because they'd be inundated with questions and whatnot. But it is definitely 3 people on the lease that were not harmed, that are hopefully, participating with law enforcement, but you're not really hearing that angle. You're hearing that the 2 people who were in another area of the house may or may not have been the ones that called 911, but they didn't hear anything. And you hear the 2 people, and you don't hear the third. Where is the third person, the person that was not there that night? And were they resentful that they were kicked out of their bedroom so that she could have her boyfriend over? Just wondering, you hear about these 2, but they're missing the big picture that there are 3 people out of 6 who are on that lease that should be the most vocal right now. They should be saying, like the one should be saying, hey, look, I didn't come home that night, or I was out of town for the weekend, or I slept somewhere else that night. And but then was that one person the one who came home and went to go and open up her door, which she shared with Xana? And what did she see? What led her to call 911? Now, when the 911 call was made, we were all hearing this terminology that the call came in as an unconscious person. Now, what we also are hearing is that when that call was made, it was stated that they thought that whoever made the call thought that somebody was unconscious, and so they called more friends over, and then multiple people were on the phone calling 911 about an unconscious person. Now, what I'm trying to decide is, as you cannot pronounce somebody dead as just a layperson, even if you just saw it, it has to be pronounced dead by a coroner or a doctor, right? So, like, the sheriff will call the coroner, and then he or she will say the time and approximate the date and time approximate of death, right? So, is unconscious the official word that has to be used in a 911 call? Because you can't say that there's, dead people. I mean, you could, but that's not going to bring the lights and sirens. I don't know. I think that the reason why they haven't released the 911 call is it's probably going to bring the auditory nightmare that the coroner is stating that what she saw was the most bloody and gruesome crime scene. I'm sure that the 911 is terrifying, and it's going to be the stuff of nightmares, and you don't want the family to hear that. And I don't know what they're waiting for. I don't know if they're waiting until they have a suspect and they can make more of an explanation out of this, and hopefully begin to bring some healing and closure to the community. But what if this goes unsolved? Will the 911 call never be released? I don't know. I think that there's becoming so many more questions and answers the longer we go, because there is time for the speculation and the questions and the frustration that becomes when information is not forthcoming, and then these maybe possible simple explanations are not put forth. Wouldn't it be nice if they said, no, we've not released the 911 call. We understand that there is confusion because it was called in as unconscious, and that is a broad term. We categorize that as 911 and first responders, as we need to ascertain all of the facts of the situation, and then if there is indeed a person who has been deceased, we do make an official announcement, but that we do not record that within the emergency response system. Wouldn't it be nice if that was that? And maybe it's not that, so maybe that's why it's not said, but that's what I'm kind of inferring, right? So, I don't know. The investigation, they put together a hotline, okay? Which is code for they need more information. They don't have the information that they need. They don't have a case that just needs to be signed, sealed, and delivered by a judge. And the hotline was put out a while ago. Now, the hotline is, reflective of our advanced society, in that, there is a phone number you can call, and there is an email in which you can email, and then they also set up a line where you can send digital files. And they requested the digital files from that morning from like 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., I believe, which I don't like, because I feel like if this goes to trial, they need to have a more broad time period, so that if they are trying to fight with reasonable doubt, a broader time period is going to give both the prosecution and the defense areas to work with. And then people are like, oh no, because it'll be so much footage for them to review and whatnot. Well, there are technicians who are going to take, this and bring it down. I think that they have no idea if this person was laying in wait, as they say. They have no idea if this person entered that residence at 10 p.m. the night before and sat in a closet and waited. They have no idea. If they have no idea, then they should not be that specific in the time that they want other people's ring cam and whatnot, in my opinion. And now they have went on to say that this was an isolated and targeted attack, without saying which of the four was targeted. Okay? They also went on to say they have no suspect. So what leads them to think that this is targeted and isolated? As I just stated in the beginning, they did say right away that there was no threat to the community. The community is safe. Don't worry. You can go about your business as usual. Don't worry. And they would not penalize students that chose to go home early for the Thanksgiving break. Oh, how frickin' generous, right? I mean, these people, this is a close-knit college, a small-town college. Everybody knew them, and everybody loved them. And obviously not everybody. I mean, there must have been some people that didn't. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of people who are going to be feeling very anxious and very upset and vulnerable. And they needed people out of there so they could work the crime scene a little better and not be bothered by the traffic coming forth and back. And what would be the harm? As the glorious pandemic has taught us, we can do so many things online. So why wouldn't they have just popped classes to online only and given law enforcement a wide berth to get a handle on what was going on in the college too? I don't know. Now, in the press release, so I did put that up. I had shared it from A Curious Rose. A Curious Rose had popped it up nicely before I had gotten a chance to put it up. So I shared it from A Curious Rose's page. And I met A Curious Rose through Kelly at Watch the Obsession. So we're all a sisterhood, We are all fighting to get the truth to come forward in all of these cases, and Kelly does a great job on so many things, and I think she's the bee's knees. So I hope you guys are all checking out Kelly at What's the Obsession, and A Curious Rose has done some readings of other psychopaths too, so always check them out. And when I posted the document that A Curious Rose put up, it had the link for what is going to be an online memorial on tomorrow night. So November 30th, there's going to be a vigil for the Idaho victims. It's going to be live streamed. And they're kind of telling people who from wherever they're watching to light a candle, light up stadium lights, put your porch light on if you don't always have it on. Just to take a moment and light up the skies as a tribute to those four amazing young people who had their lives cut short. They did nothing wrong. It's just so sad. I will put the link again, and if you have a pen ready, you're going to want to go to https://www.uidaho.edu/remember. Once again, that's https, the two little dots, //www.uidaho.edu/remember. The tip line is 208-883-7180. Again, that tip line is 208-883-7180. The email is tipline@ci.moscow.id.us. So that's tipline, tipline, at ci.moscow.id.us. To send digital media files, you're going to send them to the FBI.gov. So FBI.gov.Moscow, Idaho. So there are some things to just kind of jot down. Yesterday, when I saw the Riverside incident in which this ugly little cop thing who was working at the sheriff's department apparently had been catfishing a 15-year-old. And I'm not sure how it went down. He went to kidnap her, I believe, and killed the 38-year-old mother, the grandmother, and the grandfather in front of the 15-year-old. And that was in Riverside. And I believe that he went to start a fire at the house as well to cover it up. I don't have all of the details to that because I saw that as a moving piece, but I was like, oh, we've got our man, because it said that they were trying to see if he had catfished other people, if there were other victims, and I'm like, this is our man, because to me, that fits the profile of what is going on here. We have somebody, man or woman, because of Jodi Arias and her horrific overkill of Travis Alexander, we now cannot just comfortably say that no woman could have done this, because, good Lord, look what Travis, and everybody was looking for a man. It's like, no, it's big saddlebag ass Jodi Arias there. Well, I had to do it. Because he was threatening you while he was posing for pictures in the shower? Saddlebag, butt sex, Jodi Arias, nasty. God, she didn't breed. Anyway. Anyway. Looking at this. They say it's targeted. Okay, so you've got somebody who's jilted. Most likely. Where's the target? Okay. They're going out and saying that one of the girls, now two of the girls, the two that were close, both of their mothers have previous arrests with a drug history, allegedly. Don't come for me. Just go with me for a second. So people are going, okay, is this a drug-related, No. The fact that there is something going on with biological parents does not mean that that's the same course that the children are going. I don't see that. I don't see that those girls were in the same lifestyle as their biological mothers were. Okay? I think that that's just a little tidbit there, just like I was talking about other things, even when somebody becomes a victim of a crime, even every single aspect of their life and their family members' lives and their friends' lives, and now everything, thanks to social media, is investigated. I don't believe that that's where they were targeted. I could be wrong. But so I'm saying, okay, probably a romantic thing, because these girls were freaking beautiful. Okay? All three of them were beautiful. And then the two little best friend blonde girls, they're the stuff that all high school movies of the 80s and whatnot are made of. They're just a beautiful, young, vibrant cheerleader type, the one that every boy wants. So you say, okay, did they reject a guy? Is that too simple? Were they together at the party and they embarrassed a guy? And this guy comes for them? Was one of them dating a guy who went off to the military and they didn't continue the relationship. They wanted to be happy and live that Greek lifestyle. And here, their high school sweetheart went to the military. Things didn't work out. He comes back, upset, goes to find her, and she is living that Greek lifestyle, and he starts stalking her, watching her being with other guys. I don't know, something. You figure this profile, it is rejection. And even with Jodi Arias, it was rejection. So you go to have this amount of anger and overkill. There's rejection. There's got to be rejection. That rejection can bring that kind of rage. And then we know that the officials went and tried to find if there had been any sales of a certain type of military knife sold recently. This military knife is, again, the stuff that nightmares are made out of. It's called a K-bar. I was calling it a K-bar. And my husband, who's former military, of course, is like, what are you calling it K-bar for? It's a K-bar. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't know. I mean, like, it looks like it's like a hyphen, like K-bar. I didn't know it was like a K-bar. Okay. So it's a K-bar, apparently. And what it has that I noticed is it has this rounded, you know when you're holding a knife sharpener? And the knife sharpener has the guard so your hand doesn't slip, that circular piece? This K-bar has that as well. You know, if you think about when people are in sword fighting and they have that handle, and the handle has that circular part so your hand doesn't slip, the K-bar military issue knife has that as well. There's so much talk about how much the perpetrator must be cut up because hands slip in a murder and a stabbing. They don't slip if you have a military issued K-bar and you're accustomed to using this knife. So you go, okay, rejection, targeting. One of them was there. What happened? We see that the girls in the other room were making just frenetic calls to the one girl's ex. Were the girls hearing something and they were scared in the night and they were calling? Why were they calling? Okay. Or was it the reverse? Because the two girls were in one room on a different floor, and Xana and Ethan were in another room together on another floor. So did something happen with the two girls? And Xana got up to go and see what was going on, and she was opening her door. And when she opened the door, the perpetrator saw her, and that's where the fighting began between her and the perpetrator. And Ethan was there to try and help, and both Ethan and Xana were not the targets. The others were. And they were just wrong place, wrong time, even though it was their own home, because they opened the door and heard something. Or was it the reverse? Was it targeted toward Xana? I don't think it was targeted towards Ethan, and I'll tell you guys why in a little bit. So we've got the three girls that were murdered. If it was targeted, and most of our profilers are going to say the same thing, it's a male who was rejected, who lives a loner lifestyle. I know that the word, I can't say it now because it's socially unacceptable and I don't want to get a bunch of hate, but it's a word that sounds like imbecile but is missing some of the letters. And it's described as a type of guy who has been rejected by women, so then takes on that lifestyle of hating women and becomes a misogynist. A misogynist is a man who hates a woman, even though I think that a misogynist could be like a woman who hates a woman, but that's probably a whole different term. So we're going, okay, rejection with one of the three girls. Or was it the two girls? Was it the two super cute best friends, and they were at a party and they were getting the attention of all the guys because anybody who was at that party that they were said that every guy was looking at them. They were also very drunk. Now, hoodie guy at the food truck and whatever else has all been ruled out because that would have been just too simple, right? That he looked like he got kind of dissed by them. And it looks like I thought that they said the girls were given free food because they were kind of too drunk to pay for their food, and the guy kind of felt sorry for them and they needed to get into their ride. The person who gave them a ride has been ruled out. So you go, okay. One of the three girls was targeted. Now, the two were best friends and grew up together. The two cute little blondes, right? Xana was best friends with one of them, and I'll go into that in a little bit. But the two came from one party, and Ethan and Xana came from another. So was it something that night, or was it something that was building? If it was targeted, probably the building. So then you go, okay, well then it has to be somebody who's ex-military or a cop knowing this kind of military issue knife. Well, since this happened November 13th, and they do not have a suspect yet, that shoots that whole theory out of the window because military and police have their DNA in the system. Or is it only police? No, I think military does now too, right? Yeah, because military has their DNA in the system so they can be identified, and law enforcement has their DNA in the system so that then at a crime scene, their DNA, their fingerprints are ruled out, so it doesn't get into confusing things. So you go, okay, then this person isn't military or police based on that. And they said that the person who, the Riverside one, was working for the sheriff. So I'm like, oh gosh, I don't have my man. I thought I had my man, but it's the same kind of person. I don't know. I mean, and then you go, are those theories too easy? I saw this female professor who leads the forensic psychology program at Mitchell University, I believe, and she was commenting and basically saying that basic profile that I just spoke to that makes the most sense, and she was talking about the relationship that the killer has with his with his knife. She's saying that he has a very personal relationship with this knife. He knew how to use this knife. This knife was essentially an extension of him. Now, while they are saying that there was no sexual assault, there was no it is also said that the act of stabbing is symbolic of probably with Freud, because it is penetration. So you go with that. But the fact that she said that he's used this knife before, he understands this knife. He knows how this knife works. This knife is an extension of him, essentially. That's where I think that it goes back to the skin and flayed dog. I think the guy, probable male that did this, and then, like I say, I mean, could be a woman, equal opportunity here. We have to say, we can't just say it's a man now, because then that would be implying something that's not politically correct. So I'm sorry I misspoke. I'm old. Hold on, I'm crunching. I'm so terrible. I've made fun of every other creator for eating while they're talking. And here I am, crunching away. I'm eating the Belvita toasted coconut breakfast bars. Do you guys like those? They're so good, and I'm sorry that was just gross. I was just crunching. I'm just hungry all of a sudden. I think that statement about the knife, from the criminal profiler. It really does make that connection, because to skin and fillet a dog near campus within the relative time frame, I think that was 3 months ago. I think they need to look back at those pictures and see, if that same knife could have done it. I know that they're trying to say that the two aren't related, but I see it. I see this guy getting really comfortable with his knife and practicing. Ethan and Xana were at Ethan's fraternity house for a fraternity party for his frat before. Okay. Mogan and I can never say Gonzalez, the two cute little blondes, were at a downtown bar. So they were not in the same place prior to coming home. The two other roommates had went out in downtown Moscow. It doesn't sound that they were at the same downtown bar as the cuties. And they were not at the fraternity house party that was at Ethan's place. Okay? We know that. Now, okay. So, I messed up the last names. I'm sorry. Because Kaylee has the last name Goncalves. I can't say that last name. I'll say Kaylee. Kaylee Goncalves. Sorry. Kaylee and Maddie are the cute little ones, and they were calling their friend Jack. And they called their friend Jack Kaylee called Jack 6 times between the time of 2:26 and 2:44. This comes from Kaylee's sister, Olivia. So she said Kaylee and Madison called Jack a total of 9 times, with Kaylee calling Jack 6 times and Maddie calling Jack 3 times. Maddie's calls started coming after Kaylee stopped, and then her calls went from 2:44 to 2:52. So from 2:26 to 2:52, they called Jack, which is the ex-boyfriend of Kaylee, right? Is it Kaylee? So that means that they were very definitely still alive at 2:52. So they got home. We know that they went to the food truck. We saw them at the food truck. And then they took the private ride. Then they came home. Now what's interesting here is that the dog was given back to Jack, right? So it was Kaylee and Jack that had the dog, the cute little golden doodle. And the dog, thank God, was unharmed. And there's the question as to why wasn't the dog barking and going crazy, and why, thank God, the dog was not hurt too. Makes you wonder if the dog was with the other 2 roommates, which doesn't make sense, but it was. And were they calling, and why were they not calling, like, why were they each calling him? What was so important from 2:26 to 2:52 to try to call him 9 times and he didn't answer? Now, there are so many different connections in the girls, because we go Kaylee and Goncalves. I cannot ever say that. Some reports say that she lived in Lake City, And then others say that she lived in Rathrum, Idaho. Okay. And she was best friends with Madison Mogen. So Kaylee and Madison are both 21. Okay. Now, Kaylee and Madison, they said grew up together. They were close as sisters. So when Kaylee's sister comes on and talks, she refers to them as sisters. And that kind of confused me at first because I was going, oh, wait, sisters what? Okay, I get it. So Olivia knew them as well. So what I wonder, because Lake City is over in the Seattle area, so I wonder if she lived there for a while and then moved to Idaho when her parents divorced, something like that, because then Rathrum must be close to Coeur d'Alene. I just can't think of where Rathrum is right now. But it says Kaylee and Madison grew up together like sisters, and Madison's hometown is Coeur d'Alene. So Kaylee was studying in general studies, and everybody says she's really adventurous and super, super nice. Now, Kaylee and Madison were in the same room, right? Well, let me go over here. And how does Xana fit into everything? Well, Xana holds the lease, and Xana Kernodle is 20 years old, and she fought back. We know that. She was a junior marketing manager, okay? Now, everybody says she's positive and funny. She was a member of Pi Beta Phi sorority. So then, I don't know how that works because Madison was also in Pi Beta Phi. So Xana and Madison were connected with the Pi Beta Phi sorority. I thought that that was the point of being in a sorority, is that you live in the sorority house. So it's interesting to me that Xana lived across the house, from the school, and held a lease to her own house. And then, even though her and Madison were in the same sorority, did not live in the sorority house. I was just going over that going, oh, that's interesting. Now, Xana and Madison are both marketing majors. I say managers. I was thinking majors. Now, Kaylee and Madison, so cute little blondes, both worked together at the Mad Greek restaurant in downtown Moscow. So, you look at it, and it's like they're all so interconnected, right? Because you got 2 out of 3 are marketing majors. Kaylee is in general studies. You've got Xana and Madison, both in Pi Beta Phi, however you say that. I was not a sorority girl, we can all say that. Was Kaylee in the sorority as well, or not? And is that why she lives separately? I don't know. And like I say, I didn't know you could be in the sorority but not live in the sorority house. So that's just something I didn't know. Now, Xana and Ethan were dating, and they were friends before they dated. And Xana became a regular at the Chapin household, Ethan Chapin. Now, Ethan loved sports, and he was studying recreation and sport and tourism management. Okay? Now, he was in the Sigma Chi fraternity. He was from Conway, Washington. And this is what breaks my heart. He was a triplet. And it was 2 boys and a girl. And that's, the way that I raised my kids is triplets, because my boy-girl twins were born in the same year as my next youngest son. So my 3 that were born in 2 days less. One year grew up as triplets, so it just anything with that component, and they were actually triplets. Ethan, his brother, and his sister are triplets, and it's just so sad because you think of all that they went through. That the parents went through probably a very very scary time carrying triplets. The mom carrying triplets, and then they were most likely preemie because multiples are often preemie. And just the scary times that they probably went through with them being born and all of that and all of those scary times, and then growing up together so beautifully, and you see how happy they were and how close they were. They all three went to University of Idaho. So Ethan, his brother, and sister, all three went to U of Idaho. So now I know that Maisie, the sister, is in the sorority, and I don't know if the brother was. I assume. So I mean, if you look at this, okay, they're triplets. They're as close as can be. They're all three attending the same university. They're 2 out of 3 at least. I can confirm, if not third, are all in fraternities and sororities, living that Greek life, and just so successful. And they're 20 years old, and it just looks like they lived the most perfect and beautiful life. And even to the last day that Ethan was alive, he spent the entire day with his siblings. So the triplets were together. Maisie's sorority had a party. So Maisie's roommate went with one of Maisie's roommate came along with the triplets. Let's just say that way, because Ethan and Maisie were each other's date to this party, this dance, and then Maisie's roommate was with Maisie's brother. So let's just take all the confusion out of that and say the two boys and the girl triplets brought Maisie's friend, and the four of them went together as at a dance as two couples. And it just broke my heart because the parents are talking about how they've not been able to see the pictures from that day that the triplets spent together because they're evidence right now in a murder of one of their triplets. It's so sad. It's so sad. These kids did nothing wrong. Not that people who were murdered do anything wrong. You're just going, they did everything right. And because somebody who wasn't raised right comes and takes away 4 people's lives, what a freaking coward. I mean, if this person had a problem with any one of them, any 2 of them, any 3 of them, any 4 of them, why not talk it out? Why not work it out? What are we devolving to as a society? As I say, we can't ever lighten up and just laugh. Everything is so serious. And these kind of serious things lead to this where there is no outlet for people to go and laugh and talk. And we're experiencing negativity and stress all over, and it's just overwhelming. But when you see that these girls worked together, they went to school together, they studied together. I mean, like I say, if Xana and Madison are both in the same sorority, both marketing majors, both live together, and then Kaylee and Madison work together, have the same job, and live together, and we're best friends, you just see this closeness of these girls, and it's just so sad. I think that it'll be beautiful when they get the pictures from that dance, and it is beautiful that the triplets spent Ethan's last day on Earth together. I mean, it just seems like it speaks to a testament of how much they loved being together. And the parents said that they loved being together. They loved doing things together. They loved traveling together, and they loved each other. And just to see the two without their third is so, so hard. So on that note, I'd like to switch gears, and we're going to go to the next bombshell tonight. And in tying that up, please remember, and I will put the link back up to go to that live stream and show your support and watch online for the remembrance of the Idaho 4. That I think they say it starts at 5:30. I think it's going to start tomorrow at 5:30, and that's West Coast time. So they are Pacific Standard. Is that right? I'll figure it out. I'll put Pacific Standard Time on there because I think that's what they are. And I'll put that link. And I think that the more of us who watch it, because we're all so sleuthy, watching Law and Order, that the perp is going to be at this memorial. He's going to be walking around there. And we're going to be looking. We're going to be looking at him on the webcam, aren't we? Then we're going to be looking and talking about everybody who's a little fishy. You know we are. You know we are. So, what in the heck happened in Cabo? Can you get in here? Our little best friend Boo here is trying to figure out what to do, and I put a little bed up for him so he could go in and not walk all over my laptop. I kind of have him stopped from doing so. Can you go in here? Here? What you doing, Boo? What you doing? Boo Boo's sitting here. He hasn't gotten on top of the laptop, which is great. We're doing great. Okay, so I made the decision not to post this horrible video that surfaced in the last moments of Shanquella Robinson's life. In my last recording, I said that I was going to post the video. I since changed my mind as I saw other people saying not to post the video. There's a backstory in how that video came up, and I'll touch on that. But if there was any possibility of that video upsetting somebody, I didn't want to take that chance, so I did not. That video is now embedded in so many people's creators' contents that now they're using it as clickbait, and it's unfortunate because then they talk now and blah 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 blah, and then they put the little clip in. So I don't like that, and the one I was going to even put up, it has these two guys and they're laughing about it before it comes up, and that I didn't like that. And the one did try to correct the other one, but it just still was not appropriate in my opinion. I want those of you who can to go and see the video and how you see it, because it speaks to what happened. And trigger warning, I am talking about something sensitive. When the confusion came up, as in the Idaho 4, the FBI and local police in North Carolina asked if there was more information to send it to them. And somebody did, and this guy who runs this blog in North Carolina got this video and he posted it. And it has turned that whole investigation on its upside down. How about that? And I'm glad, because her friends, there is some repetition. I do apologize. What happened the night before when I was trying to record was Boo hopped up, and we're just having a hard time because he doesn't understand how to be a lap cat. He is very muscular. I've described before that I thought that he was a Russian blue, but he's actually a korat, and that is a species that it derives from the monkey family as opposed to the tiger family, like mama and baby that I have that are Russian blue. Yeah, huh? Talking about you, huh? Please do not walk on the laptop. Please, no, 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 Boo. You can't keep doing it. Come here, Boo. What he does here is because he doesn't understand how to be a lap cat. He wants to jump on top of the laptop because that's what I'm looking at, and then go on it, and then like dough up the keys and stick his ass in my face. And I love him so much. And generally, that's what we do all day in bed. But clip that, motherfuckers. But so he keeps doing this, and so I put the bed next to him. So what had happened the other night was he was doing this, and I gave him my New York City snow globe from when I was in New York City in 2001, 2 weeks before the towers came down. And so I gave him that. He was looking at the snowflakes falling in the snow globe. And then I was like, why don't I put a blanket next to the laptop so he can just lay down, and then we can gaze into each other's eyes as I talk, and it can be like normal with him looking at the snow globe. Should have worked, right? Well, Big Mama Kisses saw the blanket there and was like, oh, that looks wonderful. But she hops up, and Boo Boo is like, no, this is from me. And so then Boo Boo starts slapping poor Big Mama Kisses, who's a senior citizen queen cat, in the face. Okay? So he slaps her. I try to take a picture of it. I was trying to take a picture of them just fighting, and I didn't mean to, when he did his paw thing. So then she turns around with her tongue and looks at me like, WTF, did you just see what he did? And so then she got down, and then he was okay for a couple of minutes, and then he went behind the laptop and started peeking up over the top at me, and then he was putting his paw down, trying to get the cursor on the screen of the laptop, and then he took over the laptop again, stuck his ass in my face, sat on the laptop, on the keys and everything, and there was nothing I could do except for go to bed as he commanded, and we did, and we spooned all night. And so I will put pictures up on my community page, but it only allows 5 pictures and takes about 2 pictures before it says that it has an error in uploading. So I will be putting pictures up, and you guys can know exactly how this went down the other night as to why I was not able to record this fully the other night. And now I am playing with a tape measure with him because that's his favorite game. I, find things that I need a tape measure for, like mending, sewing, measuring, things like that. And he does not believe I need to have a tape measure. He thinks that the tape measure is a very dangerous thing. And so he fights for the tape measure. So I can't have the tape measure. So we play the tape measure game every day. Come here. And I'll have to film that sometime too because he likes to get in his jumps and everything. And, oh, this boy. But, when I was literally screaming in pain, it was 10 days ago. So we're really finding that there's something where after I eat like pizza, then the pain is so freaking severe. So, it's biliary colic, whatever. And the pain is so bad. And I was crying from the pain, and he got on top of me. Boo got on top of me before my husband could come and help. And Boo just got on top of me. He starts doughing up the area in which I am holding on my side. And then he'll just lay there on top of me and just go to sleep. And he's so warm. He's like his own little heating pad. He's so good to me. And my foster daughter was really having a hard time. The holidays are awful for emotions and whatnot. And she was crying. And I was, going to go and check on her. And Boo wasn't with me. And I start calling out for Boo. And I'm like, Boo, 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 where are you? And my foster daughter, he's with me. I was like, what? Usually, she's so scared of him. But he found her crying. And he would not let go of her. So she goes, he's with me, but he's doing this weird thing where he's putting his butt in my face, and I don't know what to do. I'm like, that's his way of showing love. I'm sorry, but he's part monkey, and showing his chocolate starfish is a symbol of love. So, he's cat. I have the papers for him, but this is the way that he shows his emotion. emotional support. So sorry about that, but it was so cute because he held her all night long. And now they're very bonded because he's always been very curious of her. And he's just everything. So I mean I have to put up with this kind of stuff and deal with it, but because the payoff is wonderful, but have you guys ever had such a demanding cat? I don't know if it's the monkey. I always wanted a monkey growing up. I mean, especially in the 80s, they always like you see monkeys on TV with a diaper and stuff, and it'd just be like a cute baby. hmm And there'd be the other problems with raising a monkey with what I go through every day. So anyway, oh, he will stay down and just mess with the tape measure for a little while, and I can get some work done with you guys. I'm sorry for the delay. So anyway, we're going to the case of, okay, I would like to say the Cabo 6, but no, it's turning into the Cabo 7, and I am disgusted with the more that I hear about this case, the more I feel so sorry for Shanquella. And I'm not saying her name right, and I apologize because I don't know how to say it. So please don't be offended by me not knowing how to pronounce her name. Her friends called her Quella, so I'm going to probably say Quella because when I say Shanquella, um, that probably sounds better. Shanquella. Um, because it doesn't flow the other way. So I believe that that's how her name is pronounced. So it's Shanquella. And then they called her Quella. So anyway, with her friends, those were no friends. Let me tell you, those were no friends. No, not at all. So I'm going to tell you kind of how I went down this rabbit hole, if you will. And so you can start to see what I see. See if you see it, okay? Grab your coffee. Here we go. Bombshell tonight. So, beautiful Shanquella Robinson was 25 years old. Again, another person in the prime of her life. She was getting a lot of attention because she was so talented with her braiding, and she specialized in kids braiding. Her own hair was amazing. So I think that from my experience, I've been a hair model. I have very, very fine hair, but I have a lot of hair before COVID messed it up. So when I used to be a hair model, let's say I started, I think 7 or 8 years ago. My hair is amazing for people to work on that need practice because my hair takes almost as much as it would take for 3 people to get their hair foiled. So the way my hair modeling career happened was I went to a salon and the girl noticed, my oddness of my hair, which has always just been hard for me to deal with because it's partially curly, partially straight, fine, a ton of it. So it doesn't respond to like what one thing would, curly hair or straight hair, fine hair or a ton of hair. It's a really weird setup I've got going on, and it can be very frustrating to deal with. And so my friend at the salon goes, hey, I know somebody who's needing a model downtown. You should try out blah, 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 to see if you would work for their class. And so I did, and then they started using me for other classes, and then other salons would get my name passed on, and blah, 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 blah. So then when they would fly in creators and instructors, they would use my hair as the model. They could try different foiling patterns and different things, and literally 3 people could be working on my hair, and then it would just be like my name would be passed on when they wanted to try a new product, try this and that, and it was really cool. I've gotten a lot of amazing opportunities from hair modeling, and certainly I can't afford to get my hair done consistently, so it's been great in that regard. That being said, I can kind of understand the way that um, the hair community that Shanquella was in, that probably traded services back and forth, because you see, she has the most gorgeous hair. And in this one picture, she looks like Tyra Banks, and her hair is, she's got braids down to her mid thigh, just absolutely beautiful. And you know, she couldn't have done those herself. So I'm saying that she probably was in this community, and she's probably um, provided braids for somebody else's child, and then they did her braids. Seems like there was a lot of connections in that, because a lot of people in the braiding community and beauty community um, are really coming out talking about how amazing she was. And she also had an online boutique. Now, I would caution anybody from going to look at that online boutique, because it has been hacked. Um, but it had really cute outfits. So Shankella had a lot of style and taste, and the things she sold and represented were very successful, as this online boutique was. They're just the cutest outfits um, ever. So you can see that everywhere she went, she had success. And that's where this whole thing comes out, that there was a lot of jealousy going on. And they're saying that that's what caused this to happen. Now, if somebody has jealousy, that's their problem. This wasn't anything to do with her or her success. She seems like she is super sweet and had no problem with the others in the way they had with her. Okay? They were mean to her. And that is very apparent in the one video that you're going to see where they're trying on swimsuits. And they are downright cruel to her. And people are saying, hey, how come she didn't, notice that they were being like this to her, or they didn't notice the red flags, blah, 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 blah. Well, let's not blame the victim. Okay, let's blame the jerks. Why were they acting like that to her is the real question. It's not, why did she not notice? And it's very sad, because you wonder, is this the way they always treated her, and she was used to this way of being treated, because she didn't act like it was anything unusual. Now, when we're reviewing these things, we're going, okay, these people are awful. Absolutely awful. So the way that supposedly this went was, it was the guy, okay, so the guy who was filming the one where it's the terrible fight video, you hear this male's voice, it was his birthday. So they all went down, and you get the reports that say that Shanquella paid for everybody, and then you get the reports that no, everybody paid their own way. So there's so much going on, and people are so quick to jump on creators that say the wrong thing instead of looking at the totality of the story. So I'm giving both sides, because I want everything to be known and heard, because this story is not going to go away until there's justice, and there are going to be things that I'm going to tell you about and explain that I believe are going to set a landmark in legal studies for years. So Shanquella is going to change the world. She already has. She was from North Carolina. Her mom is Salamandra. Her mom's really beautiful too. And Shanquella went down to Cabo. It was said she went down with 6. I'm now finding out that there were 7 people on the rental agreement, or the lease, not lease, but the hotel. It's a condo, and it's a company that rents it out. So that's where they say rental, blah, 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 blah. Looks like there were 7 people on that. And then it says 6. So are they saying that there were 6 friends and her, and that's where we get the 7? It could be. Now, the way that it goes, this happened on October 28th. Why are we talking about it now on November 28th? Good question. And why are we nowhere near where we need to be in this? Well, I'll tell you. The way that her mother was told, Salamandra came out with a story initially, and this was so much confusion, because Salamandra was told that her daughter was found dead in the hotel room on October 29th. They arrived the 28th. So one day after they went there, it was said that, Shanquella was just found there in the hotel room, and she wasn't feeling well, and we couldn't get a pulse, and she had alcohol poisoning. And that's all she was getting. And her friends got back to the United States, like, rather fast. They're all back here. And then you started to hear these things coming out saying it is believed that an arrest warrant has been issued. That Salamandra, the mom, says she's been waiting for this because she wants someone to be held accountable and arrested, and she cannot wait for justice to be served. Okay, this is how we get in this early part where other creators were starting to hear the story and come forth with it. So it started to grow legs, where, okay, this story's going on, it's not making sense. The mom's saying, hey, this doesn't make sense. Where is my daughter? Because her daughter's body was not sent back right away. And there are reasons for that. And she's having her friends, and her friends brought back the luggage. Her friends are talking to the mom, but they're very, very wishy-washy, and they're not making sense in what they're telling the mom. They're just going with, we couldn't find a pulse, and she drank too much, alcohol poisoning, yeah. Mm-hmm. So then we start getting the reports from the Attorney General in Baja, and his name is Daniel De La Rosa, and he says that he is going for extradition, and it was still going through this whole thing that she was found dead in the hotel room. But he states it was not an accident. She was a victim of direct aggression rather than a quarrel. This was no fight. This was direct aggression. Okay? So we've got that going on by the Attorney General down there in Baja. Now, Baja is in Cabo, so the very, very tip down there, where it's called, you'll hear Baja California, and you'll think, well, California, so it's up there. No, it's at the very bottom. I've been there, and it's so beautiful at that point. So Cabo and Baja are right in that same vicinity. So that very end of the boot of Mexico. Now, the headlines at that point said 6 friends were on a vacation. They rented a villa. The friend called the mom the next day, and as stated, all had different stories. Now, this is when the FBI came out and said they wanted pictures or videos. Okay, so that's where this was going. Now, ABC News reported around that time that Shanquella may have received care from a medical professional several hours before her death. Okay, well, that wasn't told to her mom, but this is coming out, and that's maybe where they got the no pulse. So then, when it came out, because now remember, I've told you about how shady they are down there in Mexico too. So you got shady ass friends, and you got shady ass Mexico, all together, not capable of coming forth with the truth and the facts. So they're coming in, everything is contrary to the other. As much as I kept trying to go down one and find the source for where they said that and where this person heard that, it was like Wile E. Coyote chasing Bugs Bunny, and they have the signs going that way, that way, that way. And I'm going, okay, what is the truth? How confusing would this be to be her mom, her dad, to try and figure out what happened to her and this poor girl? This poor girl. The more that the stories are contradictory, the more it shows that, yeah, who's covering for who. So, we keep going. I keep going down the rabbit holes. And it is now stated, though, at that point, so this is sometime last week. And I am right here on November 29th, I believe. So, today the 29th? Today's the 29th. Yes, it is. It said that the medical professional did see Shanquella before she passed away, and they told her friends. So it said that they came to the motel, like, they don't have ambulances like we do, but they have a number where they can call. It sounds like at this point that they called for a doctor. The doctor makes a house call, which they can do to the motels and whatnot. You can say, you're an American citizen and you need help, and use your insurance or cash pay, however that goes. And so that's what they were indicating at that point happened. The friends were. And the medical professionals turned around and said, yeah, we saw her, and we told her friends to take her into the hospital, that she was so far gone, we could not treat her in that hotel room. We said she needs to go. But, because we're not in America, and they don't have the liability of whatever, she wasn't transported. And that's where we go with that story. And that was where ABC News reported it. Now, what we do know for certain is that all of the people involved that we're talking about, from Shanquella to her 6 friends, they're all United States citizens. They rented a $1,300 a night villa, and that's U.S. dollars. So if there were 7 people on that, by $1,300, let me see how much that would be. That'd be $185.71 per night for each, which is not bad if you're in a luxury villa, because this luxury villa was 6,049 square feet, and it's luxurious, it's full of tranquility, it's got marvelous ocean views, and it was rented by the CaboVillas.com. That's the company that rented it to the group, and it refused to provide a comment to HuffPost when HuffPost tried to do the story. Now, CaboVillas.com did, however, comment when Rolling Stone did this. And they said that they are working with authorities to help with an isolated criminal matter involving private parties traveling together. Now, if that isn't constructed by an attorney, I don't know what is. We'll go with that again. Yes, we're working with the authorities in an isolated criminal matter involving private parties traveling together. In other words, they're saying this wasn't our company's fault. This isn't because of the location that they were. This had nothing to do with our lease, nothing. Go elsewhere. This was these people, and we have nothing to do with it. We are working with authorities, but do not tarnish our reputation. That's what that says to me, okay? So then we're kind of, moving forward. The news is coming out, and all of a sudden, the mom gets the death certificate. Death certificate states the cause of Shanquella's death was a severe spinal cord injury. That the spinal cord injury would have caused death within 15 minutes of that specific injury. So that's your cause. So the cause that caused her to die was a severe spinal cord injury, one that would cause death within 15 minutes. And it states of an attack. Now the manner, this is called Atlas luxation. ATLASLUXATION. Atlas luxation. That is a form of a severe neck injury. Now, that's a term not often heard. Atlas luxation. Your head and your neck. How do I describe this? Okay. The atlas and the axis. So your head and that first cervical vertebrae kind of rest on each other. They're connected, of course. Essentially, this injury is just like an internal decapitation. Decapitation is, of course, when your head is separated from your neck, popular in medieval times. You can have an atlas subluxation, which causes quadriplegia. I can't talk today. I'm sorry. So, the fight video that I wanted to show, that I want you guys to seek out and see, fast forward through whatever the content is that the people are trying to, get watch time around and whatever, because I want you to see this for your own eyes, because this was no fight. This was disgusting. Shanquella is sitting there naked on the ground. She might have boxers, but her mom said she liked to sleep naked, so that's why she is essentially naked. They pulled her out of the bed in the morning, and the person beat her relentlessly. And it does not show the full clip. What I see in this clip is Shanquella sitting there like a rag doll. She's still sitting up. Her legs are somewhat apart, so she's sitting there, but her head is grossly tilted to the right side in a way that looks unnatural, and she's sitting like a rag doll. And the man, whose birthday it was, who's filming this, says, "Come on, Kella, can't you do something? Can't you hit back? Something, give me something. Can't you do something? I mean, really? Come on, Kella, do something." And Shanquella goes, "No, can't." It's heartbreaking. You see she's defenseless, and you now knowing that she suffered from atlas luxation, which generally causes death within 15 minutes of such an injury. That injury is seen in high-speed car accidents where they hit a concrete wall, a motorcycle hitting a telephone pole. We're talking fast, slam, horrible intensity. That's how hard the person hit her. The person hitting her was jumping around, jumping on her, jumping around, jumping in circle, beating her about the head, and did this to her. Caused essentially internal decapitation. That's disgusting. The death certificate goes on to say that the details were that she was found unconscious in a living room. And then it says, was the death accidental or violent? And the word is yes. Okay. Yes. Accidental or violent. Yes. Which brings more confusion. Now, things happen. I don't know. I mean, when I rented a car in Cabo, the part where they copy my driver's license, where it says my name, they put my first name as Organ, and this last name is Donor. So then when I went to pick up the car, they were looking at the thing, and they were like, "Car's ready for Organ? Organ? Organ?" I'm looking around, I'm the only one there, and I'm like, Tabitha? Tabitha? Tabby? No, Organ? Donor? Like, there's no one else there, and they show me the thing, and I'm like, oh, is this an omen? Am I gonna be an organ donor? And I take my kidney. I'm gonna wake up in an ice bath, and there's gonna be a sign on the frickin' mirror that says, "I took your right kidney." However that goes. But anyway, I was like, no, the next line is my name. I'm an organ donor. That's that part of the driver's license. Oh, so things like happen in Cabo. So when it says accidental or violent, and it says yes, yes, yes. Okay. So that's all going on. Now remember that story that I just told you, because that's important. Because this is the official autopsy. Autopsy says right there that she was found in a living room, right? Well, pay attention, folks, because we're getting there. Bombshell tonight. The guy, I can't remember his name right now. Here we are. I wrote it down. Gerald Jackson, who is a North Carolina blog writer, is the one who posted this video. And this video is going to be the smoking gun. Without it, there would be a lot more questions, and the lies that her friends are saying would have probably been easier to believe. But this video that he got, good for him. Good for him. That's going to come a long way in getting justice for Shanquella. Now, he posted it with the permission of the family. And the FBI had requested photos and videos. So he's doing this blog, and he's saying that. He's saying, this isn't making any sense. And the FBI requests photos and videos. He gets this video sent to him. He sees it. He sends it to the family. The family says, publish it. Go ahead. So that's where I was coming from when I was going to post it. I felt comfortable in posting it because the family said, go ahead. And I think that it needs to be shown so there's no confusion, and there isn't, oh, this was some cat fight gone wrong and somebody fell weird. No, this is a brutal freaking attack. This is a brutal, one-sided attack that led to Shanquella's death. It doesn't matter how much alcohol she had in her system. She was essentially internally decapitated. But as activists within the community started coming out saying not to post it, I didn't. Now, I'm conflicted because her parents said to post it. Do I post it because the family said do it? Or do I stand down as a creator because there are activists saying not to? Well, as I'm a smaller creator and thus subjected to the hazing that I get, as y'all know, and baptism by fire, I figure, well, I'm not going to, because right now they're looking for people to blame, and I don't want that. And if there's the slightest possibility that somebody who's looking at my community post and knows that I'm often very lighthearted clicks on and sees that, and they weren't expecting it, and I've triggered them in any way, I would feel terrible. And because there was no real good way to put a trigger warning over it, I didn't. So that's where, like I say, please seek this out. There are a couple of videos out there. You're going to want to see the one. You're just going to want to put the words in, and you're going to want to put Shanquella Robinson fight video. ShanQuella Robinson, ROBINSON. And it should come up. Watch it while you can, because it's going to be taken for evidence very soon, I'm sure. Now, what we're not hearing, which is unusual, and I'll tell you why, is anything about the aggressor. The aggressor is the person who is absolutely pummeling Shanquella as she's sitting there defenseless, as we now know she was dying. Um, an injury like that stops everything. It stops your brain from operating. It stops you from breathing. You can't do anything. She was most likely paralyzed from the neck down at that point. That's why her head is to the side. The fight was in the master bedroom. They know that. The way that the original story goes with the healthcare provider was that they were all out drinking. Okay? And this is where they arrived the 28th. The 29th, of course, begins after midnight. So on the 29th, at 2:45 in the morning, the doctor was called. At 3:15, so 30 minutes later, the doctor arrived to the hotel room. At 3:15, the doctor said she needs to go to the hospital. She needs to go to the hospital. We can't do anything here. Her friends reportedly kept saying, no, she's not going to the hospital. You need to do whatever you're going to do here. We don't have the money for her to go to the hospital or whatever. Just give her whatever she needs to give here. So it was reported and allegedly that she was given an IV there in the hotel. Now at 4:20, so 1 hour and 5 minutes after the doctor arrived, Shanquella had a seizure. At that point, she was taken into the hospital, the way that this is starting to be put together. At 6:00 p.m., she was reportedly deceased in the hospital. This is where this is all over, because how do we go from her dying essentially 24 to 26 hours after she landed in Cabo? How do we have a 2:45 a.m. doctor call and then her not being reported deceased for 16 hours later with the diagnosis of atlas luxation, in which the coroner stated in the death certificate that she would have died within 15 minutes of the injury. Now, well, they continue to say that they are getting the arrest warrant for the aggressor. They are not stating the name of the aggressor. Okay? Why? Why are they not stating the name of the aggressor? Furthermore, the Attorney General from Baja stated that he is going to charge the person that he is asking for the extradition of with femicide. Femicide, by definition, is a gender-based killing by a man to a woman based on her gender. This was stated on ABC News. You will see now that they are defining that, because he has came out and said he is charging this as femicide. So what do you do when you see a video and it says that this woman was beating up Shanquella? And you see a woman beating up Shanquella. Here is where we're going to have landmark testimony, landmark rulings. It is rumored, it is alleged, that the woman who beat Shanquella is transgendered. A transgendered woman who at birth was assigned male. to be charged with femicide. By definition, femicide is the killing of a woman by a man. The person who is the aggressor identifies as a woman who was born a male. This is where I think that we have a lot of confusion going on, because I believe that attorneys, newspapers, are all getting ready to watch this case to be respectful of gender and preferred pronouns. I believe that there's going to be much discussion in, do you charge a person based on the gender they were assigned at birth, or how they identify when they are charged with a crime that is assigned as femicide? Is femicide going to be appropriate in this case, or is the femicide term going to need to be removed from the charging documents? There are stories of athletes that compete as women, as they identify as women, but they were assigned male at birth. And we see that. And there's controversy in, can they really compete as how they identify? These are things that were brought up in the Olympics. And this is why this case is going to bring up a lot of controversy, hurt, activism. And please know that I'm being very sensitive, because I have dealt with this within my family. And out of respect, I am not going to expound on that. But I am very, very familiar with the complexities that we are dealing with now that people can be comfortable coming out with their feelings of gender dysphoria, comfortable coming out as being assigned a gender that their mind is not, that their body is not. And it's very complex, and I am very sensitive to the situation. However, what happened to Shanquella was disgusting, and it was not a fair fight any way you look at it. Now, looking at this factor, how does that make you feel about what you see happened? If we now say, was known in the beginning that that's a man killing that woman, does that change things? Right now I get very frustrated when I see chats saying, oh, well, Kella must have been trying to get with the other guy, and the other girl must have wanted the other guy, and so they pulled Kella out of the bed, and she was flirting with the other guy. Again, trying to blame Kella. No, that's not what happened. She was not some seductress vixen trying to get somebody else. No, 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 no. There was something very sinister going on in that hotel room. Now, if you listen to Deets on the Streets, I really like that creator. They take some good clips and put them where they're able to be visualized more clearly. So if you want to go and listen to the commentary where I'll probably share it. I'll share it to my community page, I think, maybe. Because it has Nazir Wiggins, and I can't remember who else. I think it was Winter. They were talking, and it's recorded. And they were being questioned on this, and they're like, no, that Mexico's wrong. They're trying to say that there was a broken neck, and no, there was nothing like that going on. No, it wasn't a big deal, and no. Everybody's being negative, and I'm going to block you if you're negative, and the autopsy isn't valid, and no, that's nothing, and she just didn't get up, and she'd been drinking so much. You're going to hear a lot of that, and that's where you're going to know now that this is part of the problem, and this is the way they were talking to her mother and talking about what happened to Quella, sorry. Now, from what I can gather, they're still very, very secretive about who was on that lease. So we know that Shanquella was on there, and she's 25. We know that Winter was on there. We know that Nazir was there, and it was his birthday. We know that Khalil Cook was there, and we know that Dejanay was there. And I don't have the names of the other two. It is rumored that Dejanay is the one that was hitting Shanquella in the video. Now, Khalil Cook is heard saying in other videos, we got our first dead body, folks. And then they have this one really disturbing video where they have Shanquella in a hammock, and she's not wearing a top. And it's really creepy because they have this thing, and it's on TikTok. And the guy, and I think it's Nazir again, and he's going, buddy, 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 she threw out. She buddy, 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 she threw out. Buddy, 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 she threw out. Buddy, 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 she threw out. I'm going, what the? So I had to, go down the rabbit hole and figure out what that is. They're saying body, 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 she threw out. And I guess that's some kind of slang. Probably people who know what it is are laughing at me that I don't know. It's some kind of slang for saying that you're passed out drunk. I don't know. But it's insensitive. It's cruel. It's arguable that Shanquella was not alive in that hammock. So if you go through the chats and you see some of this stuff, there's a lot of people who say that there was a long-standing beef between these frenemies, because they say that it's alleged that Shanquella was a bully. Well, she doesn't look like one. And then they're saying that, she set somebody else up, so then she got set up, which, I don't see anything in how she looks like she could be the type of person who would do that. She looks like she's very kind, very, very giving. I just want to report it as accurately as I can right now, so that when you see these things coming out and you compare it with the film and what you see, it doesn't matter what or how happened. And that is where there was a Reddit thread that said that she set somebody else up, somebody's cousin or whatever, who was killed, and while they were drinking, she admitted that. And that's then why the Dejanay started the fight. That was up, it's gone. All of the profiles of everybody who was there that night are gone on Instagram. Everything is gone. There are people still sneaking in and saying little things and stuff, and still, saying she was the bully, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, there's going to be so much that's going to come out. But it speaks volumes when you see who came out for her celebration of life and send-off ceremony. she had the most beautiful ceremony. And there were hundreds and hundreds of people out there in North Carolina coming out for her. And the outpouring of love and support speak volumes as to the character of this girl. She was loved. She was around people who didn't have her best interest in heart, and that's really sad. And I urge all of you to listen to those gut feelings. So many of us are told to ignore those gut feelings when we're little, because those of us who are victimized and whatnot are told that those aren't accurate. Well, that's because somebody's being a perpetrator, and you look at who told you to ignore what you were feeling, and look at what they did to you, and that's why. And so those themes that your body is still telling you, this person isn't good, I'm not safe. And when you look at this story, you'll see there were the red flags. There was the way that they were treating her. You just have to wonder, why didn't she cling to the people who loved her because she was so loved? This ceremony came in with these two beautiful horses, bringing in the most beautiful casket I've ever seen. Her casket was this kind of like chrome, technicolor kind of, and it had her picture on it, and everybody signed it, just beautiful, just absolutely beautiful, beautiful. So that speaks to her character. These people from whatever, it's disgusting. Like I say, look it up, and those are the two big stories. We've got our Idaho 6 and our Cabo 6 or 7, and trying to figure out the truth in it, as always, right? Which brings us to the frickin' Watts Island, right? We're always landing in Watts Island. So, it all came out that the home on Saratoga Trail is sold. I saw, I think it's 2 adults and 3 children, I believe is what they said. Although Shanann was not making the house payments and keeping that from Christopher Watts, who was the owner of the home, she was not telling him that she was not making the house payments or the HOA payments. We know that Christopher thought that she said, or he became aware of, and possibly that was the big fight that night, we don't know, but he did say at some point that he found out that it was the last 4 months of payments that she did not make. I don't know. Now, that's why she went to North Carolina and was in a separation with him, because she knew that he was going to find out that the house was going to be foreclosed upon, because she didn't tell him that the money that he was making every day, getting up at the crack of dawn, getting the girls ready, and taking them to daycare so she could sit around by herself and do nothing but sit around by herself. And when then he got home, he fed the girls, gave them their baths, took their rectal temperatures as she commanded, and she filmed behind, and lock them in their bedrooms from 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m., where then you wake up and do it all again. So Christopher Watts life was working, finding time to work out so that he could look better and wear the products in which she was promoting when she was alone all day. He did all of the hands-on care for the girls, including the rectal temperatures that she had him take of them every night, making sure they were all lubed up, because that's what she was having him do because, well, we're not going to talk about that right now. So he did all the hands-on care. He was working all day, every day. He was the sole provider of income. His income that he went sun up to sundown to work and come home and take care of the girls was all under her financial control. He believed her lie that she was making as much as him because he did not know that she was taking his money that he was making to put into the MLM that she was selling, to buy her ranks, to buy her vacations that were for free, to buy the lease payment, to buy $25,000 worth of stock in the basement. He did not know that that's what she was doing with the money. He trusted her. He trusted her. She looked at him with the eyes of deceit in every single aspect and definition. I don't know how I would look at my husband if that's what I spent my days doing. I don't know what my life expectancy would be if I did that. And don't come for me, oh, it's not her fault. No, it's not her fault. No, it's not her fault. But you know what? Like I say in the study of victimology, if you want to increase the odds of you getting strangled, that's what you do. You lie to your husband about making the house payment that he's going to work every day earning the money to do, and then you use the money for your selfish crap so that you can do things and take vacations and leave him behind while you go and you wear the leopard dress that never lets you down and you conceive a baby on the very same weekend that you're away from town. And then you lie about how far along pregnant you are so that no one can make that correlation. Refer back to the other videos that I've made on this topic to see how the dates fall, to make this all make sense. Because she was separated, because she did get the heck out of town. She took her and the girls to go. It was a separation. I don't know why the rhetoric does not get this, because right now all I see is the stupid headlines going, oh, Saratoga house has sold, and you see the same lies come up, and it says this, oh yeah, Christopher Watts was given 5 life sentences. 5 life sentences. They say that all the time because he got a lover when his young and beautiful pregnant wife was out of town visiting relatives, and she came back, and he had a lover, and so he strangled them and their 2 beautiful children and put them in oil tanks, and if and then the other things that people keep saying, if he did not have that affair, she'd still be alive. No. I can't believe that the false narrative continues, but there are people who are making the false narrative continue, and those false narratives will be all over the headlines in the next few weeks. Because the bank did not appear to take ownership of the house, even though the house payments had not been made. If any one of us had not made the house payment in at least 4 months, you can bet that the sheriff would have kicked our ass all the way out to the street. But never did happen there, right? And if it was going to happen, she was going to be in North Carolina, all the way in North Carolina, because she wasn't going to hear how he was going to react when he found out. And she was having NA grab the mail while she was out of town with her parents so that Christopher would not get the mail that was his own. Isn't that mail theft? She's taking mail addressed to Christopher Watts and stealing that. That's mail theft. That's a federal offense. she told Annie to do it and take the mail so that Christopher would not see his mail. That's mail theft. That is a federal offense. There are so many people that got away with so many other crimes in here that's ridiculous. If I would have done that, my ass would be under the jail. But, you know. So, if you look at the interviews of Shanann's own mother's workplace by WRAL, the employees there talk about how Shanann was out there with the girls because she was separated from her husband. She was getting a divorce. That clip is played in the same news stories that say that they were this wonderful, loving family that he just snapped one day because he preferred his lover and killed the girls and her. They don't pay attention to the fact they were separated. You can be... How many of you out there had relations with somebody else while you were separated? Now, she wasn't separated. She was still married when she was in NOLA with the leopard dress. That's why when she said, "Come in here, Christopher," and she's got the film going, so if anything goes down, he doesn't know who's on the other line, and she's wearing the shirt that says, "Oops, we did it again," and he's like, the Britney Spears song? Oh, no, we did it again. And he's like, when? What? And then she says, "We're pregnant." And he's like, oh yes. Yeah, that's why. So I know we've all talked about it, but there are people who don't know what I'm talking about and just pop in. And then, I've just got to just kind of go here because not everybody's on the same page, clearly. I look at these things that come out and I'm just like, would you all please sit down, just take a freaking chair, and let's get all on the same page, and let's get the truth and the facts out there. The people who continue this narrative have websites, Instagrams, YouTube channels, and they purport the narrative. The narrative leads to paychecks for them. Follow the money with the narrative. I don't make a cent and have never made a cent on my channel by telling the truth. Follow the money. So, it appears the Ruse will be getting another check. It appears that the Ruse did very quickly once this happened, and they had a very square head on their shoulders. If they instead of being so grief-stricken like anybody would have been, they took control of the house and got a very good lawyer and got the house tied up in probate. Probate should make everybody who just heard me say that go, ugh, probate, because you know that when something is tied up in probate, it takes forever to get sorted out. When somebody dies without a will, when people are fighting, whatever, probate. Things get tied up in probate and taken forever. So I assume that the Ruse had a very good lawyer, and he, I say he because most lawyers are male, and then I know that, no, they're all female. No, there's just many male or female. I'm just thinking that Frankie got a man lawyer, but here, I could be wrong, so maybe a lawyer later. Lady lawyer, maybe a their lawyer. The Ruse got their lawyer to put the house in probate. It was Christopher's house. He was the one on the the loan. As most people who are married, everything goes to the other spouse. Because in the circumstance of murder, this was blah, 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 blah. Because Shanann had her mother on her life insurance as opposed to Christopher, there were all of these moving parts. The Roos got paid handsomely. They've received GoFundMes. They've received donations. They've received so much money. They built this beautiful outdoor kitchen with this amazing wood fire pizza thing, and they're continuing to make money, and they will make a lot of money within the next couple of months based on the interviews that will come from the sale of this house. So what I can see from breaking this down now is that the bank did not take possession of the house, which they should have, because the house payments were not being made. Because they did not take possession of this, the Ruseks put the house in probate. It is sat in probate, and I don't know how that works with the payments, late payments, HOA payments. I don't know much about probate. And then I hope that an attorney who's well-versed in probate will speak on it. I was given information by, I'm not sure if they want their name mentioned, but they did refer me to the Geneva, J-I-M-E-V-A, Geneva Crime Channel, Geneva something, where I guess that they went into great detail and explained more about this. So I will be looking into how they explained it better, because I had a lot of confusion, because what I was given was this piece of paper by this person who's just amazing at research. Thank you. Giving a shout out to, you know who you are. I'll ask if I can say your name or not. But she provided me with this piece of paper, and I was like, wait a minute, it says a rental agreement between the Rue and this new family. So they're renting it. And she explained to me that I should go to that channel to have it explained. So it was not a rental agreement, even though it looks kind of confusing. It's a document that comes out of Weld County. And what it says is, it says that the house on Saratoga Trail is worth like $750,000 right now, which is very, very plausible because of how the market is in Colorado. Colorado's a booming state. Very, very likely that house, and it's a beautiful house, we all know that, is worth $750,000. Whereas it is stated that it sold, that Papa Roo accepted $600,000 for it. Now, when it went up for sale in May, the true address of the house was not made public. And if you wanted to see the house, you needed to show that you had financing in place to do so. They were avoiding the house being basically a tourist attraction, a museum to come in. So what I have seen and heard at this point, I do believe that it is a legitimate sale. And I do believe that because the people have put forth a picture of themselves and their children, and they have stated that they have thanked Shanann for the beauty that she put into the house in decorating, and they have thanked her for what she has done in allowing them to get the house and have it to raise their children, and they will honor her in the ways that she decorated the home, and they thank her for the opportunity to have the home, which is a beautiful sentiment. The fact that they have came out with that public statement and have had their picture, and Papa Roo is now commenting, make what I am saying be more than likely true, in that they will all be going on a media tour within the next month or two. And as I stated with like the Casey Anthony things, the interviews are not paid per se. What they do is they pay for the rights of the pictures, or pay to come in and take pictures of the house and whatnot. So you'll see your Inside Edition coming out, and you'll see Good Morning America, and you'll see everybody, and the Roos will get a big fat holiday check from the sale, and this family will get money and whatnot to start their new lives in the house. The house is beautiful, and I'm surprised that it's stayed vacant for this time. I think that everybody will make them feel comfortable in the home, and I hope that it doesn't become anything macabre where they're there to say, oh, yeah, well, we hear this and we hear that. I hope that there's nothing exploitative in that. Um, it's disgusting how much the Roos continue to make money on this. They're the ones who continue the lie. They're the ones making the false Instagram accounts. They're the ones doing this. As I was talking about the other day, how NA thinks that anybody who has an opinion or says anything is akin to cyberbullying. She's a liar, and like I said, she's committed at least federal mail tampering and theft. At the very least, but I believe that she's guilty of much, much more. Her fat, smelly fingers are just dirty and have been all over in every single aspect of that. And if you want to call that cyberbullying, go right ahead. There's some Nicoles that are mentioned in this story quite a bit, and there's one Nicole that is sinister, and it's not the one with the last name that begins with a K. I'm going to say that right now. So anyway, as we look into these documents, they're straightforward. There's nothing there that says this is false. There's, unless somebody crafted this whole fake document from Weld County, I don't see why people are saying it's false. Looks pretty simple to me. So that's the way I see it. And I told you guys my story about when I got the beautiful house that, well, to me it was beautiful. It was a work in progress, and the man was kind of a hoarder, but the house that I got for such a great deal, and I asked the man who had died on the porch, if I could have the house and raise my children there, and they could watch and see my children as their grandchildren, and we could live in harmony as long as they promised to never ever scare the shit out of me. Like, they had to be really good ghostly presences. Like, don't scare the shit out of me. If you guys didn't hear that story, I'll tell you really quick. And if you did hear that story, go grab something to drink or pee or whatever. So anyway, the way this one is what I was I like 24, 25? I had a really small house with my two boys and my husband. I was married, and it was the best we could afford. We lived in Washington State, and Washington State can have its really expensive areas. We were in an expensive area, and the house was just so small. I was living in an 800 square foot home, and it was just, you had to clean it so much because it's just so little. And it was a 2-bedroom house with one bathroom, and so there was this house on the hill, and it was going to be auctioned off, and it was big, and it had a beautiful view, and the house was just freaking huge, but it needed work. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's up for auction. And I went there and kind of got the backstory that basically the mom had died years prior, and it was the husband. And they had their stepkids, kind of Brady Bunch style. And the dad had lived alone in the home for several years and kind of had party ways, and so converted the garage into a bar, and so there was a lot of partying there, and basically the house was a bar, a party joint for people in their 60s and 70s. And the garbage can apparently just wasn't near enough sometimes, so the cupboards were filled with garbage and whatnot. And so the kids came in and they were like, I'm not cleaning this up. This is disgusting, whatever. I'm not paying somebody to do this, whatever. Let's just sell this. They couldn't agree on anything. So they were like, wash our hands of it, sell the thing, and divide the monies. So they hired the auctioneer to come in, and these people were collectors. So the wife had like this really cool um, pottery habit. So she had a kiln downstairs and made all these things, So there was like all these things all around the yard, gnomes and everything, and this wishing well, and just really cool stuff. So there was all of that stuff to auction off, and then the home itself. So people came to the auction, and the house sold for way under what it was worth in the market. And so the auctioneer said there's probably no way that they're going to accept this, but it's what you bid, so we'll put it forth. And I was like, can I tell them that, like, even though it's a low offer, I'd be really, really appreciative, and I'd love it because I would just love this house. And he was like, I'll tell them, but money is money. So he did, he told them, and they accepted, and it was just great because that house was just so freaking amazing. And so this is where I have my Saratoga moment, is that I got the keys, and I walked in. My husband was at work, and I had the kids over at their grandma's house, so I could go in and clean the house, so that the kids could come in it because it needed to be cleaned. And so I got the keys, and I walked in the house and walked into the bar part, and I walked in, and you could just feel this presence, this omnipresent presence of somebody being there, that this was not my home and this was not going to happen. It wasn't like when the auction was there and there was all these people there. It was that get out. This presence was just there. So I unlocked the door, went in, took about 2 steps, and then ran the fuck back out. I mean, ran like, oh my God, oh my God. I got my car, and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm too scared to go in. I felt that, oh my God, this isn't my house. So I was like, okay, all right. I love this house. I want this house. I want this house so bad. So then I went back into the house, and I said exactly what I was just talking about. And I said, I am so sorry for what happened to you. Because what had happened was there was a terrible car accident outside the house one night, and the man had a bad heart, and the car accident was so bad the telephone pole was down in front of the house, and there was power lines and everything. And so it was just too traumatic, and he went out and he had a massive heart attack. So he died on the porch that I'd just been standing on, where I just ran out. And so, I went in, and I was like, I know that you weren't ready to die. I see that your dishes are still over there by the sink. I said, if you would let me, I would be so grateful to take this house and really love it and raise my children here. And you're welcome to see my children, and they would love this land and this house and the opportunity, and we would be happy here, and we would love for you and your wife to continue to live here, as you do and as you feel. And you can live right next to us and everything, just as long as you please never ever show yourself, and please don't scare me or the kids ever, please. Just don't show yourself, because you'll scare the shit out of me. And from that moment, the energy was just different, and it was okay. And I went, and it was just so weird because, like, his clothes were still there, his dirty underwear, everything, his bed, everything was there, and me just going and, taking apart everything, emptying out all the garbage and everything. But then all the treasures I found within everything was just really cool. And it went full circle, because here's my ghost story. Here's my ghost story, guys. I said this on another video, so sorry for you guys who are on repeat, but my friend came out from high school. She wanted to go to the Jimi Hendrix grave memorial. So I took her there, and I had never been to this particular graveyard before, which is unusual because I usually lurk in graveyards. I think they're cool. And so we're walking over to where the Jimi Hendrix thing is. We were told it's towards the back of the cemetery. And so we're walking, and she's walking a little bit ahead of me because she's got longer legs, and she's just, she's just determined to go, and I'm lollygagging, looking at the graves because that's what I do. And all of a sudden, this energy grabbed my foot, and I fell down. Like, I entirely fell down. Like, fell down at the graveyard. My foot. And I look up to where I was at, and I was on his gravestone. The man who we bought the house from, who had passed away on the porch. So it was him and his wife's gravestone right next to each other, and I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much for the house. I was like, you probably want me to bring you guys some, like, flowers from there and stuff, and because I'm an asshole, I never did bring the flowers, but I was, like, so freaked out because I would have never known that that was their grave. Where their grave was, I didn't know. But it was so clear to me that there's energy from the other side. Don't ever think that there isn't. But I made peace with that energy, and I think that the people who are going into her home will do the same thing as they have stated that they would. Are they still going to shit their pants every time that they hear something go amiss in the night? Yes, they are. They are, and they will. Just like any of us do, but probably magnified. I don't know if I'll put my kids in the same room as the girls. That's kind of, I don't know. I don't know. It's definitely, and I don't know how the kids are going to feel because kids are so sensitive to energy like that. And when they find out what happened, which they will find out what happened, how are the kids going to be? Are they always going to be like, I'm going to sleep with you tonight? Or is this going to turn into some big thing and they're going to move out in like 2 months and be like, I don't know. Lots of questions, huh? Do you guys believe it? Do you guys believe it's a legit sale? Like I say, I don't see anything to say that it's not at this point. But stranger things have happened, especially in this. So, when we read last time, we read chapter 10 in the book Controlling People, How to Recognize, Understand, and Deal with the People Who Try to Control You by Patricia Evans. And the last chapter was really getting to where we need to be. This book is very small, very slow in building its points as it really lays the background good. And that's where we need to be, because to understand psychological concepts takes a very long time, because it's very complex in how personality disorders are created. I put on my community page today something that kind of crossed my mind, because I saw somebody doing a voice box or a voice connection where they try to get a hold of Shanann, and they do these voice box sessions and whatnot. You know, those voice box ones where they have the old radio with the static and whatnot, and it'll pick up a word or whatever, and then they're like, oh God, that's her, that's, oh yeah, and that's a bunch of bullshit. But anyway, the question was posed by somebody, and they said, so Shanann is not at peace where she's at. And I said, no, she's not at peace, because she's not in a place where the truth and who she was is understood. She knows the truth is not being told. And people will jump to that, oh yeah, because NK did it. And it's like, no, the whole truth. Just like in this book, it talks about how people are defined, and they're defined in dysfunctional families. They're given roles, and we see this continued in the narrative. Why is it so important for the Roos to continue to create an image of their daughter that they know damn well isn't true? If they would have just stopped talking about this years ago, everybody else would have stopped as well. They continue this narrative that brings up more questions the more that the truth and the facts come out. And they are the problem. For everything that they do, there is a response. For every negative, there is a positive. So, They put out this malarkey. We, as people who are seeking the truth, come out with the truth. The people who want to believe something somewhere in the middle come out. And then there are the extremes on either side. And then you have the people who just have their one comment that they have to say, and they say it over and over. And then the people who believe what they want to believe, no matter what the truth and the facts are, go out there. Would that make you feel at rest if all of that was going on using your name? No, it wouldn't. I feel comfortable continuing to talk about her and Christopher and the girls because I believe that the truth needs to be exposed. Now, would I have any problem with SW if she had not abused and neglected the girls? No, I would not. Because she abused and neglected the girls, which is proven over and over. Please see Neek's Peaks because she does the best at bringing the receipts. Because children are involved, I am not a fan of this person. She did not treat those girls well at all. Now, in saying that, you can say that her own mother did not treat her well. However, my own mother did not treat me very well, and I made the decision long ago to stop the cycle of abuse in my generation, and I wish that SW would have. However, her selfish motives made her go and cleave to the dysfunction and intergenerational trauma because it helped her lies thrive. Did you see what I did there? Oh, I'm going to sip something now. Lies that thrive. Thriving lies. Lies. So our last chapter really talked about how dysfunctional families define, because they need those definitions of how others are to do this. Now, Shanann continued to define her girls. Look at how she did it. Oh gosh, Cece is just so out of control and I can't do anything. And if I didn't sell these silly stickers, I wouldn't be able to get through the day because these silly stickers allow me to handle a child like Cece. Celeste is just out of control. So she defined her child as out of control so that she can try and exploit that to sell something, because then she needs the money to chase all of the lies because she hasn't made the house payment, the HOA payment, and she's going on vacations that are actually not paid. They are switching dollars from which we're supposed to go to the house payment to buy the vacation, to buy the rank, to create the image. You get it? Instead of just making the house payment. She had to define somebody else because it helped her lies. She had to define Bella as the sick child because that other products like the oil, and created the reasoning for forcing her husband to violate the boundaries of her young daughters in taking rectal temperatures every night before bed because, the girls might have Mediterranean familial fever. Even though no doctor said that, and even though no doctor would recommend having little girls have rectal probes put up their rectums every single night. She defined them as sick and possibly having this remote condition that doesn't even make genetic sense, that was never diagnosed, just like lupus wasn't. Her own mother defined her as ill. Her own mother targeted her as ill. And Mama Rue's mother defined her as ill. Intergenerational definitions of who They are. Not all of the things that encompass a personality and activities, and you could be a cheerleader, you could be good in choir, whatever, but no, they were the sick child. They were the sick child. They had this illness. She had these headaches. Oh, she had the terrible asthma. Oh, she had the terrible headaches. Oh, now, now she's sick and her ankle hurts, and she's got these food allergies, and it's just so much stress, and so stressed out that, if I didn't sell these silly stickers, if I didn't have these silly stickers, I couldn't deal with their behavioral problems. I mean, out of control, what you call them, monsters, thieves, always needing something, always thirsty, not looking at who they are and what they are doing, who they really want to be, who they can aspire to be. It doesn't matter because they're definitions for somebody else's needs. That, poor Shanann, oh, she was a wonderful mother. She always took them to the doctor. Oh, yes, she did. She always took them to the doctor. She was a wonderful mother. A wonderful mother because she always took them to the doctor and they weren't sick? No. So that's what makes a wonderful mother now. Huh. Could have fooled me. So anyway, here is chapter 11, and it is called Backwards Connections. And it is said, the unknowable about another is everything that exists behind their psychic boundary. When people approach others backwards, they are most likely attempting to connect backwards. A backwards connection is just the opposite of a real connection, which is based upon two people relating to each other. A backwards connection is just a small step away from where control of the other is the often unconscious objective. A backwards connection begins with the assumption or definition of the other that ends all possibility of a relationship, at least in that interaction. It may be initiated with the intention of getting closer to the other person, or with the intention of attacking the other. For example, once Sydney defines Lee, you've always got to be right. Sydney cannot relate to Lee because the real Lee no longer exists in Sydney's mind. Recall Jack's parents. When they denied Jack's reality and defined him by telling him what he experienced, they could neither hear nor see the real Jack. They seemed to want him to be a different child, one that was not hurt and did not express pain. It was as if the only child that they would accept was a pretend child. They were rejecting their real child and related to their pretend child. Consequently, they could not relate to Jack. Now, off the cuff here with Tabitha Jane, that was when Jack, remember, who had fallen and hurt himself and was crying, and they told him not to cry, that he was not hurt. Well, apply this same theory to Cece and Bella. They could not accept Bella wanting to get up and play, like she wanted to play on that trampoline. She wanted to jump around with Cece, but no. Her mother, Shanann, said no, and looked at her father and said, Bella cannot jump. She cannot. Her leg is hurt. Bella would have done whatever she could have because she's a child, and children know when they're hurt and what is protected, but there was nothing hurt. She was told that she was hurt, and in order to keep her mother from getting angry at her and giving another haircut or pinching her ears or doing something else just out of spite, she said Bella cannot jump, and Bella recoiled and went into a fetal position and made herself as small as possible to avoid being further attacked by her mother. We saw that on film. And what? Oh, well, so Bella was defined as she could not. She could not jump on that trampoline. Why? Because Bella's the one who's sick. But then what happened? DC was allowed to jump on that trampoline and jump and jump and jump because the definition is that Cece is so out of control. Cece's got all this energy, but Bella's sick. So they both have these roles to play because then that gets her double attention. So people who are naive and say, oh, I worked with them and I saw, and she was a wonderful mother who defines her children as one is sick and one is out of control. One just exhausts her to the point where if she didn't apply a sticker she couldn't handle, and one that is so ill that, you know, she just has to take care of. What would have happened if one of those children was really ill and would have really taken care? What was she doing to care for Bella if she was so sick, right? What about moms who really have terminally ill children? They don't get the attention and recognition that this woman commanded from everybody, do they? They don't. Because they just do what they need to do, and they honestly care for their children as real mothers do. And that is what makes a wonderful mother, not one that defines their children in roles so that they may get more out of life than they deserve. Back to the book. Back to the book. Connecting Backwards is a kind of sick self-help program. An automatic and false way of connecting that keeps one from having to accept the reality of another person. In contrast, a real connection is an empathetic one that allows one person to see and hear the other. Off the cuff over here, Tabitha Jane. You know, children of traumatic childhoods or SA, they want to be seen and they want to be heard. And this sentence is very poignant in that, because it says here, you know, a real connection with somebody is an empathetic one that allows one person to see and hear the other. So then if you go there, then the other person is known that they are seen and they are heard. And if you can see and hear another person and you can be seen and heard, that goes a long way towards intimacy and empathy. As it says, you know, this is an empathetic relationship. And those are the things that lack in the Rue family, as we can see. And we can see that, you know, it goes back how many generations, because it was going in with Bella and Cece, was there with Shanann and Junior, and it was there in Mama Rue's life. And Mama Rue's mom seems like she might have had problems. So we know it went back 4 generations at least. And then we don't know how many generations back the alcoholism went on the paternal side of the dysfunction, because we know that Shanann went in search of the male attention to be seen and heard by a man at school, because she told him that she had never felt that she was seen or heard by her own father, because he was always drunk. So we see that the themes of the alcoholism are there, and we see that, you know, Shanann's very much a child of an alcoholic father, and she would have benefited from Al-Anon. But we can say that with a dysfunction that her mother put on her, defining her, and then her not feeling that she was seen or heard by her father either, by her father or her mother, that she was something that they defined, we see she then went on to define and have the dysfunction and have the inability to have intimacy and to be truthful and empathetic and honest with her own husband. And the second that her husband's questioned her, she went on to the arms of another man who she believed would see and hear her in the ways that her current husband, her ex-husband, her father did not. Back to the book. The first sign of a backwards connection is a backwards approach. If the approach is accepted or cannot be avoided, as in a parent to child or dictator to citizen relationship, the connection is made. If, for instance, I had defended my reading schedule when I was defined as reading too much, I would have been addressing the defining statement rather than the stranger's behavior. Inadvertently, I would have accepted a backwards approach and therefore allowed his backwards connection to me. I would have been putting across the idea that the process of defining me was okay, but the content, the definition was wrong. Even when one does not accept a backwards approach or connection, some perpetrators persist in attempting to establish one. Since making people up involves an assumption about another person, we can think of this assumption as a preconceived idea, a vision of the other. For instance, some people think they have an idea picture of a grandmother. When they think of a grandmother, they imagine an older woman with curly white hair piled on top of her head, wearing glasses and an apron. They don't, for instance, imagine a tall, glamorous woman with long, dark hair who happens to be a grandmother. Another example is when in love. Some people envision a traditional picture of a prince or princess. It seems to hover over their chosen one, and they see this person through the lens of this vision, just as if they were looking through a special colored glass filter that filters all out but his or her finest qualities and even potentials. Part of being in love is seeing the best about the other as well as one's own best self reflected in their eyes. It is well known that a girl may think of her boyfriend as heroic and valiant, or that a boy may think of his girlfriend as a special being filled with mystery and allure. Generally, as relationships develop, these pictures are tempered with reality. Mature people recall these youthful visions. In a mature relationship, each person sees the other's desirable and less desirable qualities, as well as their limitations. They are able to see their partner as a whole person. The glamorous vision is modified through time and maturation. The real person emerges and the relationship grows ever more interesting. Real problems arise if an illusion remains, a collection of thoughts that displace one's mate in a way that he or she cannot be seen at all. In relationships, our openness to each other's individuality allows us to get to know them and become closer to them. The following poem reveals the reality of an illusory picture of the other. It was sent by a man to his former fiancée. Your beauty fills my waking dreams. I love it all and all it means. I always have and always will. Even now I love it still. Made me glad to hold you near. How could you just disappear? I am certain that my claim requires you to remain. All my future, oh so bright, turned into one lonely night. What should be with me for life is lost without my promised wife. Now my meaning, purpose, and feeling have been taken. Fate is stealing, but I can never let it be. This I know, and this I see. I love your beauty, always had. It's just senseless, I'm so sad. You're the best I could find. Why couldn't we be just one mind? Interesting, huh? I have spoken to many people who have thought that their mate was of one mind with them. I found that all of the illusions people have about others, the most common and the most devastating to any kind of relationship is the idea of being one mind with one's mate. This illusion opens the door for a pretend person to be mistaken for a real person. And then we start with, and it begins as, the pretend person. I invite you to imagine what it would be like to be in the company of someone whose vision of you was so overwhelming that from their perspective, you do not exist. You can't be heard or seen. Figuratively speaking, their image of you is that of a pretend person who doesn't just float over you like a vision, shaping their perception of you, but instead drifts into you. It would be as if they had extended a tentacle from their mind into yours, trespassing your psychic boundary, anchoring into you. This occurred, a backwards connection would have been established. Not surprisingly, they may claim to know you better than you know yourself. This anchoring in the other occurs quite frequently in couple relationships. It's a way of connecting backwards to another person. I have heard from thousands of people who describe this very experience. Generally, they say that in the beginning of the relationship they got along really well. They talked over problems and shared their thoughts and concerns, and just as one would expect in a good relationship, they came to easy and happy agreements and were able to resolve misunderstandings and make joint decisions. Then quite suddenly, everything changed. Their mate seemed to change almost overnight, switching from being able to hear and respond to them to not seeming to be able to hear or see them at all. Which occurs in a couple's relationship. If it doesn't occur in the first weeks of the relationship, it takes place where there's a significant change in the circumstances surrounding the relationship. For instance, it may occur when the couple becomes engaged to marry, or when they begin living together, or on the day of their marriage, on their honeymoon, or when one person leaves a job to stay home with a child. We may ask, why does a change in circumstances surrounding the relationship trigger a switch in one of the partners from healthy behavior to controlling behavior? The one common factor to any change that triggers the switch is that the perpetrator feels more secure. His or her mate is not likely to leave, not now that they're engaged, living together, married, or having a child. All along, the pretender was unconsciously looking for a safe harbor for his or her dream person. Pretenders don't anchor their pretend persons in their mates unless they believe that the body they are anchoring in is not likely to leave them. This is the security they are looking for, and although anchoring a pretend person in a real person is an unconscious process on the part of the pretender, it is often easy to pinpoint the event that triggers it. The following example illustrates this phenomenon. Called me in deep distress. She'd been married for 16 years, and she was coping with a husband who either ignored her or was angry or overly abusive. But the first of the marriage, she told me, wasn't like that at all. Do you have a child about 8 years old? I asked. How did you know? She asked. If you had a job and quit it to stay home, that action would have triggered the switch, I said. She said that she had quit her job to raise her child. Looking through the lens presented in this book, I could see that when she became more dependent on her husband, he felt secure because she wasn't likely to get away. He then let his pretend person, dream woman, drift into her, so to speak. I don't think that this woman's husband could have consciously realized that he had anchored his dream woman in her. Instead, as often happens, I believe that he felt comfortable enough to stop seeing his wife as a person who was out there, who required his attention. As one man put it, He simply relaxed, and the dream woman must have just slipped in. To avoid this backwards connection and others, it's very important to notice backwards approaches. Backwards connections may not seem particularly disastrous at first glance. He thinks I'm a princess, or she thinks I'm a prince. However, once they take place, if not reversed quickly, and that's not always possible, the person who connects to you this way is only one tiny step away from establishing a control connection to you. We'll explore control connections a little later. And it's good, guys. When we get to that, you're really going to understand why we had to build up to this backstory. But anyway. A middle-aged man, successful in the worldly sense, described his growing up. As he learned about the concept of the pretend person, he said that he did have a dream person when he was very little. She was like an inner voice that said, "You're great, you're fine." And yes, she was always there. She was like his inner need meter. As he got older, this dream person became his dream girl. I could see that he'd come to believe that he'd get a real walking and talking girl someday, just like his dream girl. And one day, he knew he really wanted this dream girl. As he got a little older, he said he learned from songs and movies and other guys what he'd have to do to get one. I'd have to go on dates and pay for things or bring presents or flowers and say nice things, he said. He set out in earnest to find the right body for his dream girl. I even tried to find the measurements of different girls, he said. He was on the lookout for a good body. He did all the things he thought he was supposed to do, and sure enough, he got his dream girl. By then, she was his dream woman. The dream girl that becomes the dream woman is like the personification of a man's feminine side, the unconscious part, the part that contains his unacceptable feelings, intuitions, and sensations. He connects his hidden part of himself in earliest childhood instead of connecting to his real self because it holds so much of his experience. Conversely, for a woman, a dream man may be thought of as the personification of a woman's undeveloped or masculine side, assertive and active. This kind of dream person occurs less frequently than it did in the past because women in our culture have been able to be more assertive and active than they were even 50 years ago. In couple relationships, men or women who lodge in their mates this is a way to avoid their feelings of disconnection and sadness, loneliness, vulnerability, uncertainty, and fear by maintaining their seemingly infinite security of never having to stand separate on their own 2 feet. They love their pretend person, so they cannot, of course, love their real mate. Physical and verbal abusers make this mistake, as if to reaffirm their love of the pretend person. After an assault, batterers may unabashedly say, "I loved her or him too much." In an extreme case, when someone murders the person in whom they have anchored, the one in whom they have planted their pretend person, their connection is severed by their own hand. They have cut themselves adrift. Consequently, they often feel suicidal unless they can quickly find another person in whom to anchor. This is how powerful the pretend person is. It is rooted so deeply in the mind of the pretender, as well as the body of the other, that the pretender experiences it as a connection to reality itself. Why do people approach others backwards and make up a pretend person and anchor it in someone? Does this phenomenon have something to do with the experience of closeness? And that's that for that chapter. Now, in reading this, I can see a lot of Christopher Watts doing what was just described. Whereas he, as the other person, didn't find the dream girl, it was a dream woman when he did find the dream woman. Maybe because he had that and he was so quiet and he did that and he hid his imperfections and whatnot and was waiting for the body to come along for the dream woman. So, in that sense, he was dysfunctional in her, and in the other aspect, she was defining him, and she did define him. And when she beat him all the way out to the porch, she was defining the way that he needed to be. In a sense, like she said, until he could learn how to behave, he wasn't coming back in. She was defining how he needed to act. They both were dysfunctional in many ways. And that's where I think that the misconception came out, where when Christopher was being called the narcissist, it was believable because he didn't have the best way of emoting. He was a very quiet guy who did the right thing, who was quiet, and we know that, the sister was the outgoing, bubbly one, and Christopher was this really quiet loner guy that they could never even imagine would get married. So the two came along and created beautiful children, but a toxic ticking time bomb, you know? And that's where marriage counseling would have done great, but people who are dysfunctional and have personality disorders cannot get true help until and if they are ready and committed to changing themselves, because they lack insight. And when Shanann's first husband tried to take her to marital counseling, she said no. She went a couple of times, probably learned that she was the frickin' problem and didn't like somebody questioning her because she was Shanann, and refused to go back, and then stopped coming home at night. She started fucking around. She went to go and get the affirmation that she needed from other men because she had a psychic injury in going to counseling and having somebody question her. Having her then husband, Leonard, question her. You don't question that woman without great circumstance. Her children, unfortunately, found that out. And Christopher found that out. And with that, I'm at the 3-hour mark. So I'm going to stop it now. And I've got more I'll be doing. But I hope that you all are safe and warm. I'm in the land right now where we got a good blizzard, and I'm so happy. I love snow so much. I hope that I've given you the updates that you need to kind of start forming your own thoughts and opinions, and banter with me, and in the comments, banter back and forth with me. And if there's something that you want to ask, or you're not comfortable saying, or you want to talk to me personally, go ahead and pop that in an email. And as I was saying, I have created my Patreon. All of my videos that I've done are uploaded to Patreon, and they will continue to be so. And then I will be creating exclusive content on Patreon. And I am going to continue to be building my YouTube here. So I have that on the back burner. I'm building it. It's there, so we have everything protected. So if anything happens again, we have our safety net, and I feel a lot better now that I have everything all backed up and uploaded. That was really hard for me when everything was taken. So I hope you all have a great week. And please remember to tune in to the live stream tomorrow night for the Idaho 4. I will put the link to that, and I will be lighting a candle definitely. Um, Thank you all for listening. Thank you for the love and thank you for the support. Please like and make sure that you're subscribed because when my channel was down, I lost a lot of subscribers. Um, I noticed that even the creators that I go and listen to a lot, I look and I find that I am unsubscribed. So sometimes it just happens. Maybe a button is pushed to unsubscribe or whatever. But please, if you like what I say and whatnot, and you want to share it to a friend, please share. Please like, please subscribe. And thank you for all of the love. I always said I don't appreciate how kind you guys are to me. I appreciate all of the time and the kind things that you say. And I thank you for your time. And I hope that I was worthy of it. So thank you all. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.